Warning, the creepypasta content may have came to an end, but this movie contains language, blood and gore, and scary references to horror movies. This movie will be revoiced. This film is rated PG-18. Viewer discretion is advised. And now, without further ado, enjoy the show.
Haha. It was me, Matthew. I was the creepypasta content captain this whole time. I never meant to lose all of the lieutenants who had to evacuate to the TrollPasta universe. Anyways, let's get this movie started, starting with the creepypasta called Monsters Incorporated Lost DVD Bootleg. Monsters Incorporated will always be my favorite movie from Pixar, alongside Cars and Wall-E. Everything about it is good. The characters were quite funny, the soundtrack was awesome, and the emotional bits. But now, my good memories of this film are ruined because of one single DVD. It was a beautiful day, and I was just on my notebook I got for my birthday, drawing some pictures. A few seconds later, I heard a ring at the doorbell. I looked through the door, but nobody was out there. So I slowly opened it. I saw a package on the blue mat. I brought it in and opened it. To my surprise, it was my childhood favorite Pixar film on DVD, Monsters Incorporated, but not just any DVD, but the 2002 2-disc collector's edition. I already had it, but something was off on it. The logo on the front had a red M instead of a blue one. Mike had no eye and he was drooling and crying blood. Boo's silhouette had black eyes along with blood on the door, and Sully had red eyes and fangs. I got suspicious about this DVD. I looked on the back cover. The THX certified print logo on the back cover was also written in red. Along with Randall having red eyes, and Roz having blood stains on her. I decided to watch it to find any differences in this DVD. I decided to watch it, because it was my childhood film. I plugged in the DVD player accessory and put disc 1-inch. But, sure, the FBI warnings came up, but the background was red instead of blue, the menu screen was also different. The music was kind of distorted, and the music was just a piano version of it with a piano chord and Sully's roar. I soon took notice of those differences, but just shrugged them off. Then I pressed play. Boy, would I really want to take that back. The THX Text 2, Mookin trailer played, but it was way off. The THX logo appeared in a dark background, as usual. There was about 10 seconds of silence until the THX mascot, Tex, dropped down to the ground so fast I almost fell off the couch. He looked at the camera and pulled out the moo can, but it was red, and it had Sully's face on it. Tex gave the moo can a small shake, but there was no moo sound. He pressed the button on his chest activating the jetpack on his back and flew to the X and took out the cord like normal, but it looked burnt. He plugged it in the moo can and gave it a small shake again. But instead of moo sounds like in the actual trailer, there were sounds of Sully roaring. The sounds were so loud Tex dropped the moo can, to cover his ears, but it was not quite enough, and his head was exploded into a pile of gore, along with the THX logo falling into pieces. Then it faded into a black screen, with a text saying, "The best sound, the best picture, you're watching a THX certified feature." Instead the THX slogan, "The audience is listening," and the text was shattered. I was shocked from what I just watched. The Walt Disney Pictures logo played, but it was a crimson red, and the audio had a demonic tint added. And the usual intro played, but with the music going distorted, and the background was a bunch of old, broken doors. The film began as per usual, that is, until Water Noose came on screen. His voice was distorted, the rest played like normal. There were some parts of the film where the DVD would stop and goes to the next scene. But this is where things get really disturbing. During the part where Sully does his big loud roar, Randall approached Waternoose and told him he has the child with him. Waternoose, clearly upset, goes towards Sully and says something in a demonic tone.
"Sully, how could you let down the entire company?
before a blood-red door appeared. Sir, that's not her door," Mike stated. Waternoose said his usual lines and walked towards the door, revealing it to be hell.
"It's yours,"
Waternoose said, as he shoved both Mike and Sully into hell. And what happened next was the most horrific. Mike and Sully screamed as they were being burned, with their voice actors screaming in anguish. Soon, their burned corpses fell to the ground, dead. The end credits, "If I Didn't Have You Played," but distorted. And the DVD ended there. I didn't want to watch disc 2 because I didn't want to see what was on that DVD as well. I was shocked at what I saw. I decided to email Pixar Animation Studios about the film. Here's their reply. To something. From Pixar Animation. Subject: Monsters Incorporated film. We're sorry about that. We would never, ever, and ever make anything that graphic in a kid's film. Well, a film tampering issue is to blame. Before the final batch, someone named James Bowing snuck in and made this alternate version. So, sorry about that. Don't worry, we and the team are working on investigating this. Jump along, Lassiter. Well, I chuckled at the jump along part. But one thing never would leave me. Why would someone do this? Next creepypasta, Incredibles 2 alternate ending. So it was June 30th, 2023 and school was finally ending. So after school ended, me and my friend Robbie decided to go downtown by subway. When we went there, we decided to go to a pawn shop to look for some DVDs. While we were looking, I found an Incredibles 2 DVD for $7.99. Now me and my friend Robbie were fans of The Incredibles since 2018 when the sequel was released. I even had a game of Lego, The Incredibles on the Nintendo Switch, and we liked it. Since we were fans of the first and second Incredibles movies, we decided to buy it. Before we left the store, the employee at the checkout told me,
"If the DVD you bought doesn't work or if you didn't like the movie, you can return it to us within 30 days.
And I was glad that the store had a 30-day return policy. After that, we took the subway home. After we got home, my mother ordered some KFC chicken and we ate before me and my friend Robbie went to the living room to see the movie. After we were done eating, we went to the living room to watch the movie. I pulled out my PS5, turned it on and inserted the DVD into the disk drive. It showed the short Disney logo at the beginning, but for some reason after the logo, it didn't show the Disney Fast Play menu, which was weird. Every Disney DVD should come equipped with Disney's Fast Play. Despite that, it showed trailers for Toy Story 4, Frozen 2, and Disney Channel's new show called Amphibia. By the way, me and my friend were also fans of Amphibia and we absolutely love the show. After the trailers, it took us to the menu. I pressed play and it showed the FBI warnings, and the Incredibles variant Disney and Pixar logos. After about 15 minutes into the movie, we get to the interrogation scene where the Incredibles are being interrogated for causing damage to the entire city because of the Underminer. However, the next part gets weird. After Rick Dicker leaves the interrogation room, the movie cuts to a black screen for 12 seconds and then fades into the next scene where the Incredibles are in a courtroom where they are being charged for millions of dollars in property damages and are being sentenced to 15 years in prison. Me and my friend were in shock to see that the Incredibles are going to prison, and I told my friend, "This doesn't feel right. It looks like we got the one with an alternate ending." And my friend Robbie replied,
"Yeah. We should stop watching this immediately."
However, we wanted to see what would happen next. After the scene where the Parr family are being taken to prison in a van, they get to the prison, get their mugshots, get into their prison uniforms, and are sent to their cells. Bob Parr was very furious that he and his family went to prison for trying to save the day. And he said, "Why would they do this to us? Why would they do this to us?" After that, the movie cut to black and the credits rolled, but the music was in a demonic tone. After the credits rolled, it showed the same Incredibles variant Disney logo, but it looked horrifying. The sky was darker red, the castle was orange instead of red, and the Disney logo text was blood red instead of yellow. After that, it showed the Incredibles variant Pixar logo, but it also looked horrifying. The background was black, the text was blood red, and the lamp was also blood red, but its light bulb was still yellow. After that, it showed a black screen for 30 seconds until a jump scare came up. The jump scare was so loud that it froze my PS5 with the jump scare sound still going. I had to hold down the power button on my PS5 until it turned off. I then turned it back on and the PS5 was still working after the jump scare. I then ejected the disc and threw it on the floor, but it only received a minor scratch. After the movie ended, me and Robbie were traumatized to see this movie. By the time I turned off my PS5 after testing it if it still worked, my mother came into the living room and was very concerned at what happened, and we told her that the movie we bought had an alternate ending instead of a regular ending. While we were watching the movie, my mother was in the attic cleaning out dust on stuff that hasn't been touched for years. After telling her how the movie had an alternate ending scene, she told us where we bought the movie from, and we told her we bought it from a pawn shop in downtown. Instead of going to the pawn shop tomorrow, she decided to take us to the pawn shop to return the DVD and ask the employee why the movie had an alternate ending scene. Once we got to the pawn shop, it was already 7:03 p.m. EST and the sign said that the pawn shop would be open until 10 p.m. EST. Once we got inside the pawn shop, we asked the same employee to give us a refund on the DVD we bought earlier and tell us why the movie had an alternate ending scene instead of a regular ending scene. And this is what the employee had to say.
Well, last week, a person with the DVD came into my store and wanted to sell it for $7.99 Canadian dollars. And then the man told me,
"Oh yeah, by the way, the movie has an alternate ending scene. So if someone wants to buy it, please warn them that it has an alternate ending scene. And they might get shivers down their spine from the ending."
Today, you guys bought The Incredibles 2 alternate ending DVD earlier ago. However, I forgot to warn you guys that the movie had an alternate ending scene that may not what you expect.
After the employee told us how the movie had an alternate ending scene, she gave us our $7.99 Canadian dollars back, and she also told us that she would be reporting the DVD to the police tomorrow. After we got out of the pawn shop, we came back to my mother's car where she was waiting for us. And my mom told me,
"So did you get your money back?"
yes, and we also told her that the DVD was sold by an anonymous man.
Good. Never watch movies with alternate endings again. Do you understand?
Yes. After that, we dropped off my friend Robbie home, got some gas, and then finally got home. At 9:35 p.m. EST, while I was watching the Mario movie on my TV with my mom, I decided to email Pixar on my iPhone 13 Pro Max about the incident. After I emailed Pixar, I got an auto-generated email from Pixar saying that it would take 3 days to get a reply from Pixar. And that is how The Incredibles 2 alternate ending movie haunted me and my friend Robbie. If you ever go to a pawn shop and see a movie that has an alternate ending scene, do not buy it. You'll absolutely regret it. The end. On to the next creepypasta. This will be a double one. Ahem. Finding Nemo was always my favorite movie from Pixar. Everything about it, I loved. The characters, the soundtrack, everything. But all that changed on one fateful day. It was 3:25 p.m. I was playing Minecraft with my friends while my mom went shopping. A few seconds later, I heard a ring at the doorbell. I looked through the peephole on the door, but nobody was there, so I opened it. I saw a package on the welcome mat. I brought it in and opened it. To my surprise, it was a Finding Nemo DVD. Not just any Finding Nemo DVD, but the 2003 2-disc collector's edition. I thought I already owned this DVD, but I saw something was off on it. The original title on the front of the DVD case was covered in red marker, and it also made me felt suspicious about this DVD. I looked on the back cover. The THX certified print logo on the back cover was also written in red marker. I decided to just watch it to find any differences this DVD could have contained on it. I went over to my computer and told my friends I had to leave for something. I opened the DVD player on my computer and put disc 1 inch. The FBI warnings came up like normal, but the menu screen was different. The music was kind of distorted, and Marlon and Dory didn't speak like they would in the menu. I took notice of that difference, but just shrugged it off. Then I pressed play. The THX Text 2, Mook and trailer played, but it was also off. The THX logo appeared in a dark background, as usual. There was about 10 seconds of silence until the THX mascot, Tex, dropped down to the ground so fast I almost fell off my chair. He looked at the camera and pulled out the moo can, but it was red, and the cow that was labeled on the can was dead. Tex gave the moo can a small shake, but there was no moo sound. He pressed the button on his chest, activating the jetpack on his back, and flew to the X and took out the cord like normal. He plugged it in the moo can and gave it a small shake again. But instead of moo sounds like in the actual trailer, there were sounds of cows being slaughtered. The cow sounds were so loud Tex dropped the moo can to cover his ears, but it was not enough and his head exploded into a pile of gore. I was disgusted. Then it faded into a black screen, with a text saying the best sound, the best picture, you're watching a THX certified feature, but the text was red. I was shocked from what I saw. The Walt Disney intro played, the music was still distorted. Then it faded into the Pixar intro, but when the lamp jumped on the letter I, it exploded into blood. The lamp looked at the camera with its red light. It faded into black, and the movie started. The first part played like normal, until the part where Marlin was knocked out by the barracuda. I could hear it chewing. I heard it chewing on Coral and all the rest of Marlin's family. I cringed at hearing this, also feeling a little heartbroken. The rest played normally. Nemo grew up, he went to school, and got captured at the drop-off. Marlin would still go out for Nemo, meeting Dory and then Bruce. The meeting went like normal, until Marlin and Dory went to the mask that was dropped from the boat. When Bruce went mad after smelling Dory's blood, he chased the fish throughout the submarine. They got outside the sub while trying to read the mask's address before Bruce broke out from the hatch that the fish escaped from. Before Marlin and Dory could hide in the spot where the missile was, they were eaten. I saw Marlin and Dory's flesh being torn apart as they were swallowed by Bruce. I flinched in shock of seeing that. I felt scared. It faded to the fish tank in the dentist's office at night. I was wondering why they skipped a few scenes, but shrugged it off again. The volcano's red light glowed across the room. It cut to Nemo swimming to the top of the volcano nervously, but the fish weren't chanting. I could only hear the ambient bubbles from the volcano. Nemo was right on top of the volcano. He gulped. It cut to Jacques, the cleaner shrimp, turning the wheel on the volcano. Instead of bubbles coming out, it was fire, even though it was in water. Nemo screamed as he was being burned slowly. His burnt corpse dropped dead to the ground. I stared in shock at his dead body. It stayed there for 10 seconds before cutting to black. The credits rolled, but the original song, Beyond the Sea, was playing slow and distorted. I could not believe what I saw. I thought about destroying the DVD. But before I did, I recorded the whole movie and posted it to YouTube and age-restricted the video. Then I ejected the disc, looked for a hammer, destroyed it, threw the DVD case into my closet, and threw disc 1 into the trash. To this day, I just hope I would never see something like that ever again. Finding Nemo was always my favorite movie from Pixar. Everything about it, I loved. The characters, the soundtrack, everything. But all that changed one fateful day. It was 3:25 p.m. I was playing Minecraft with my friends while my mom went shopping. A few seconds later, I heard a ring at the doorbell. I looked through the door, but nobody was out there, so I opened it. I saw a package on the welcome mat. I brought it in and opened it. To my surprise, it was a Finding Nemo DVD. But not just any Finding Nemo DVD, but the 2003 2-disc collector's edition. I thought I already had this DVD, but something was off on it. The title on the front of the DVD case was covered in red Sharpie, and it also made me felt suspicious about this DVD. I looked on the back cover. The THX certified print logo on the back cover was also written in red Sharpie. I decided to watch it to find any differences in this DVD. I went over to my computer and told my friends I had to leave for something. I opened the DVD player on my computer and put disc 1-inch. The FBI warnings came up, but the background was red instead of blue. The menu screen was also different. The music was kinda distorted, and Marlin and Dory didn't speak like they did in the menu. I took notice of those differences, but just shrugged them off. Then I pressed play. The THX Text 2, Mook and trailer played, but it was also off. The THX logo appeared in a dark background, as usual. There was about 10 seconds of silence until the THX mascot, Tex, dropped down to the ground so fast I almost fell off my chair. He looked at the camera and pulled out the moo can, but it was red, and the cow that was labeled on the can, well, the cow was dead. Tex gave the moo can a small shake, but there was no moo sound. He pressed the button on his chest, activating the jetpack on his back, and flew to the X and took out the cord like normal. He plugged it in the moo can and gave it a small shake again. But instead of moo sounds like in the actual trailer, there were sounds of the cows were being slaughtered. The cow sounds were so loud Tex dropped the moo can to cover his ears, but it was not quite enough, and his head was exploded into a pile of gore. I was disgusted. Then it faded into a black screen, with a text saying, "The best sound, the best picture, you're watching a THX certified feature," instead the THX slogan, "The audience is listening." But the text was red. I was shocked from what I just saw. The Walt Disney Pictures logo played, but the music was still distorted. The Pixar logo played, but when Luxo Jr. jumped on the letter I, it exploded into blood. Luxo Jr. looked at the camera with his red light. It faded into black, and the movie started. The first part played like normal, until the part where Marlin said,
Where did everybody go?
Coral looked dreaded. The scene changed with the barracuda staring at Marlin and Coral, menacingly. Marlin gasped. The barracuda hissed at Marlin and Coral, way out into the distance.
Coral. Get inside the house, Coral.
Marlin whispered. It cuts to a shot of Coral looking down at her eggs.
No, Coral, don't. We'll be fine. Just get inside. You, right now.
Marlin said to Coral. Just then, Coral swam down toward her eggs. The barracuda roared.
No.
Marlin yelled. Marlene swam down and fighting the barracuda. The barracuda whacked Marlin on its tail. Marlene fell into his anemone and knocked out by the barracuda. I could hear it chewing. I heard it chewing on Coral and all the rest of Marlin's family. I cringed at hearing this, also feeling a little heartbroken. The rest played normally. Nemo grew up, he went to school, and got captured at the drop-off. Marlin would still go out for Nemo, meeting Dory and then Bruce. The meeting went like normal, until Marlin and Dory went to the mask that was dropped from the boat.
Hey, looks. Sharks.
Dory said.
No, no, Dory.
Marlin angrily shouted.
Hey guys.
Dory said.
No, Dory.
Marlin shouted.
Hey, that's mine.
Dory yelled.
Give it to me now.
Marlin said.
Give me.
Dory shouted, as she got hit a mask.
Oh.
She shouted, causing her to get a nosebleed.
Are you okay? I'm so sorry.
Marlin told to Dory.
Are you clocked me there? Am I bleeding?
Dory asked. The blood came out of her nose underwater, making it puffy.
Dory, are you okay?
Bruce asked. He sniffed the blood and goes mental.
Oh.
Bruce said.
Oh, that's good.
He had his pupils dilated.
Intervention!
Yelled Anchor and Chum, as he pushed Bruce back into the wall.
Just a bite.
Bruce shouted.
Hold it together, mate.
Anchor said.
Remember, Bruce.
Chum told to Bruce.
Fish are friends, not food.
Food. Bruce yelled. Marlin and Dory swam away with the mask.
Dory, look out.
Marlin said. Dory screamed.
I'm having fish tonight.
Bruce shouted.
Remember the steps, mate. The steps.
Chum said. He then chased the fish throughout the submarine.
Just one bite.
Bruce shouted. Marlin and Dory swam up towards the door. The two fish made it to the door.
There's no way out. There's got to be way to escape.
Marlin yelled. Bruce banged the door with his nose 3 times.
Who is it?
Dory asked.
Dory, help me find a way out.
Marlin said.
Sorry, you'll have to come back later. We're trying to escape.
Dory said.
Okay, there's no way out. There's got to be way out.
Marlin said.
Look, here's something. ESCAP E. I wonder what that means. It's funny, it's spelled just like the word escape.
Dory told to the wheel.
Let's go.
Marlin yelled, as he dragged Dory with the mask. Bruce bursted through the door and said,
Here's Brucey.
Referencing The Shining when Johnny busts the door with his axe and said his famous line, Here's Johnny. They got outside the sub while trying to read the mask's address before Bruce broke out from the hatch that the fish escaped from.
Wait a minute, you can read?
Marlin told to Dory.
I can read? That's right, I can read.
Dory said.
Well then here, read this now.
Marlin said to Dory. Bruce grabbed the mask in his mouth. The two fish screamed and swam away. Bruce continued chased after them.
He really doesn't mean it.
Chum said.
He never even knew his father.
Anchor yelled.
Don't fall off the wagon.
Chum yelled. Marlin and Dory were about to hide in the hole with a missile launcher. But before Marlin and Dory could hide in the spot where the missile launcher was, they were eaten. I saw Marlin and Dory's flesh being torn apart as they were swallowed by Bruce. I flinched in shock of seeing that. I felt traumatized. It faded to the fish tank in the dentist's office at night. I was wondering why they skipped a few scenes, but shrugged it off again. The Mount Wanahakalugi's red light glowed across the room. It cut to Nemo swimming to the top of the Mount Wanahakalugi nervously, but the fish weren't chanting. I could only hear the ambient bubbles from the Mount Wanahakalugi. Nemo was right on top of the Mount Wanahakalugi. He gulped. It cut to Jacques, the cleaner shrimp, turning the wheel on the Mount Wanahakalugi to pass through the ring of fire. Instead of bubbles coming out, it was fire, even though it was in water. Nemo screamed as he was being burned slowly. His burnt corpse dropped dead to the ground. I stared in shock at his dead body. It stayed there for 10 seconds before cutting to black. The credits played, but the song, Beyond the Sea, was playing slow and distorted. I was shocked at what I saw. I was going to destroy the DVD. But before I did, I recorded the whole movie with Bandicam and posted it to YouTube and age-restricted the video. Then I ejected the disc, looked for a rusty old hammer, destroyed it, threw the DVD case into my closet, and threw disc 1 into the trash can. To this day, I just hope I would never see something like that ever again. Scary as heck, but anyways, on to the next creepypasta. This one's a real doozy though. There have been many classic Disney and Pixar movies that are well beloved today, like Cars, WALL-E, just to name a few. One of my favorite Disney movies of all time was Monsters Incorporated, which I've seen ever since I was young. This movie features Sully, Mike, Waternoose, Roz and many others. But what if I told you that there was a different ending to this beloved movie? Please, believe me that it will creep you out. I was sitting bored at home, playing WALL-E on my PS3. That is, until I received something in my Google Mail. It was from Pixar themselves. Dear big Pixar fan, we would like to share an alternate ending to our timeless classic Monsters Incorporated, made on July 3, 2003 by dropped employee Adam Kennington. Please watch it. But do not screen it anywhere after you're finished watching it, please delete it. A link was attached. The file downloaded as an MP4 file titled, Monsters Inc. 2003 Alternate Ending Version.mp4. Wasting no time, I opened Windows Media Player to play the alternate ending. Unfortunately for me, I never expected the ending to be so dark and traumatizing, so I never watched the movie ever again. Plus, it was really messed up. The ending started with Sully and Mike hopping off one of the doors. Sully then said, "Come on," while carrying Boo. I knew this was the door chase scene. Sully noticed Randall, before going into the door, which was placed sideways, which was a French bedroom, but the scene was crimson. Randall then looked out the door, only to have it shut on him. "Hope that hurts, lizard boy," laughed Mike. The scene continued out as normal, before things really got dark. "Great job buddy, we lost him," Sully said, as in the final cut. However, Boo just disappeared, only for Randall to then uncamouflage above Sully and Mike, holding Boo, and unlocking the door hold device, causing the door to drop, with Mike and Sully still hanging on. "Nice working with ya," Randall said. The scene cut to Sully and Mike, getting into the falling door. "Get it open," Sully shouted. "I'm trying," said Mike. "Open the door," Sully shouted again. The door opened, and Mike and Sully went into the door. Just before it smashed to pieces, it cut to black, only for a loud blood splatter to be heard. It stayed black for 30 seconds. The credits rolled, with its background that looked more reddish than what I remembered, and the song, If I Didn't Have You played, but it was super distorted. After the credits were done rolling, I saw the most messed up message. Made by Kennington in 2003. Well, whoever made an alternate ending to this movie, is a mystery it is. If you receive an email that contains a dark alternate ending of this movie, be careful of what links you click on. Moving on to the next creepypasta, and I believe that it'll be the triple one. Cars was always my favorite movie from Pixar. Everything about it, I loved. The characters, the soundtrack, everything. But all that changed on one fateful day. It was 3:27 p.m. I was playing Minecraft with my friends while my mom went shopping. A few seconds later, I heard a ring at the doorbell. I looked through the peephole on the door, but nobody was there, so I opened it. I saw a package on the welcome mat. I brought it in and opened it. To my surprise, it was a Cars DVD. Not just any Cars DVD. I thought I already owned this DVD, but I saw something was off on it. The original title on the front of the DVD case was, I noticed, the word director's cut in Sharpie marker, and it also made me felt suspicious about this DVD. I looked on the back cover. I decided to just watch it to find any differences this DVD could have contained on it. I went over to my computer and told my friends I had to leave for something. I opened the DVD player on my computer and put disc 1 inch. The FBI warnings came up like normal, but the menu screen was different. I took notice of that difference, but just shrugged it off. Then I pressed play. The horror Walt Disney Pictures logo played. The music was still demonic filter. Then it faded into the Pixar logo, but when the lamp jumped on the letter I, it exploded into blood. The lamp looked at the camera with its red light. It faded into black, and the movie started. The rest played normally, until the tractor tipping scene. Lightning McQueen and Doe Mater were going tractor tipping. However, after tractor tipping, they heard a moo, but it was a bull moo.
That's Frank,
Mater said, driving away. However, Frank came out of the bushes, but he looked messed up. He had blood-stained eyes, instead of his normal regular eyes. Frank started chasing the two cars, as he mooed madly. After 3 seconds, Frank almost shredded McQueen and Mater, and they drove away from the field. The rest of movie played as normal. The credits rolled, but the original song, Route 66, was playing slow and distorted. I could not believe what I saw. I thought about destroying the DVD. But before I did, I recorded the whole movie and posted it to YouTube and age-restricted the video. Then I ejected the disc, looked for a hammer, destroyed it, threw the DVD case into my closet, and threw the disc into the trash. To this day, I just hope I will never see something like that ever again. As you all know, Cars on the Road was the latest Cars installment, and has had a lot of good episodes. But there was one episode that Pixar accidentally released on Disney Plus for 2 days before removing it completely. My name is David, a huge Cars fan, and let me tell you this story. It was a nice summer day, and I decided to curl up and watch some Disney Plus on my tablet. I decided to watch Cars on the Road until I saw something that caught my eye. It was a picture of Mickey with a question mark. And the title was McQueen's Suicide. I decided to watch it. Here's how the episode went. The episode starts off with the usual intro, before cutting to a title card reading McQueen's Suicide on a red background. The music in the background was the same one from the SpongeBob episode Dumped. Once the title card was over, it cut to Radiator Springs. Doc pulled up to McQueen, saying that he was going on a vacation for 2 weeks. McQueen said he would miss Doc. Then Doc drove away. A time card then popped up, reading 2 days later. It cut to McQueen, looking happy, and Mac drove up to McQueen urgently with a very depressed face and said that Doc died in a crash due to going too fast. McQueen, now realizing Doc was gone, soon started sobbing. It wasn't fake sobbing, but it sounded like his actor, Owen Wilson, had lost a loved one. A next day time card popped up with a background of a cloudy stormy sky and the Mater transition on the screen. It was Doc's funeral. Sally, Fillmore, Guido, Luigi, Sheriff, Flo, Ramon, Lizzie, Mac, and McQueen were all sobbing. There was a loud static noise instead of actual tears. Chick Hicks was there but he wasn't sobbing at all. He was laughing. It cut a shot of Doc's corpse. He was drawn in the same hyper-realistic style as Bart's corpse from the Lost Simpsons episode Dead Bart. Soon, a next day title card appeared, and it showed McQueen in Doc's garage looking all forlorn, with some happy photos of Doc and McQueen's memories. In front of him was a sheet of paper and a pencil, and McQueen started writing. He spoke out loud as he wrote. Here's what he said/wrote.
Without Doc Hudson in my life, I am nothing. He made me what I am today, and I'm thankful for him so much. But now, with him dead, I just have no purpose in my life. I cannot live without my Hudson. If he is dead, then I want to be dead. Goodbye, my fellow friends, even Mater. I am really sorry if I am hurting anyone for doing this, but I can't just live like this, without Doc. If anyone finds this note, then I am long gone dead. Goodbye, world.
There was no noise after that, except for McQueen saying farewell, and a realistic rev came out of him. It cut to a junkyard as McQueen sadly went to the hydraulic press and it crushed him to death. After that, it showed his flattened body. McQueen's body just stayed there and there was no audio at all. It was dead silent. Then, blood oozed out of his underside, and the blood looked realistic. It was not your typical cartoon blood, but more like human blood. There were no credits, and the music playing in the background was an instrumental cover of Behind Blue Eyes and the words, R.I.P. Doc Hudson. A racing legend. Then it faded to black and the Pixar logo appeared, but instead of the lamp jumping onto the eye it started crying and it just stayed crying there for 3 minutes. And that was about the end of the episode. I was very much saddened by what I had seen. I decided to just let Disney handle it and they removed it. In 2011, Disney and Pixar released Cars 2, which was a lousy Cars movie in my opinion. But that doesn't mean it had a deleted version of the opening scene made during development, before being switched because it was too dark and scary. But it can be found on YouTube. Here's my story about it. My name is David, I am 14 years old, and I want to tell you this quite shocking story about the Cars 2 opening that was quickly changed to fit its demographic. It was a nice Friday morning. I was on my computer because I was bored. As I searched for Cars 2 scenes, a video soon popped up. It was titled Cars 2, 2011, Prague deleted scene uploaded by the user Bernie. I clicked on the video, and decided to watch the entire thing. The video began with John Lasseter talking about the development of Cars 2, and I decided to see the chase scene. It showed the character Agent Healy, which would later become Agent Leland Turbo, 2, got crushed off screen. The video began with the usual scene that most people like myself had seen, until he hid in a scrapyard, and this is where things take a dark, very dark turn. He was put inside a crusher and I swear, things were needlessly scary. Seal, the villain's soon to be replaced by Professor Z in the final cut people hate, says the same line, and then, Leland was crushed to death. Then, Mac's horn was heard, but slowed down, as text started fading and reading, Leland Turbo is dead. Under that was a copyright date. Copyright 2011 Disney/Pixar Home Entertainment. If you ever find this sort of video, please report it to Disney and Pixar who owns the Cars movie. Okay, we're halfway through this movie, and already things got really scary as I read through these creepypasta stories. Can the other me take over? I need to initiate the 2-hour portal closing sequence.
Okay, my love. Will do. So I have just been informed that we have 2 hours to evacuate this creepypasta universe. So let's continue this movie. I wish I would give you the classic. This happened to a friend of mine. I honestly, truly do. Then I could make it a lot less gruesome in my head than it really was. Then I could doubt it like the rest of you, because even though this happened to me, even though there were witnesses, sometimes I'm not quite sure I believe it myself. It's the wails of my now 4-year-old daughter at night that remind me that it did indeed happen. Katie had just turned 3 a couple of weeks before the incident. One thing I loved to do was take her to the theater every few Saturday morning for a kids' movie presentation. It went from old classics like Snow White to recent Pixar movies. It was fun and enjoyable, and that way Katie mingled with other kids her age who loved the same movies. At the time, Katie was literally obsessed with anything related to Toy Story. We had all 3 movies on DVDs which she watched religiously. Thank God I love those movies too, because you can get sick of watching the same thing a minimum of 5 times a day, let me tell you. And also had Woody, Buzz and Jessie dolls which she loved to sleep with. She was afraid of trucks by the time she turned 2, so I taught her to pull the strings on either Jessie or Woody to scare the bad trucks away in the middle of the night. Honestly, these dolls were a blessing. So when I found out Toy Story 3 was being shown at the kids' theater, I jumped on the occasion. Even though Katie had seen it countless times before, there was nothing like watching it on the big screen, and I knew she'd be ecstatic. I invited my friend John to see the movie, and he accepted. The showing was supposed to start at 8 a.m., but it didn't start until 9. It wasn't so bad, since the kids were having fun together. Some parents left, frustrated, but I stuck around, as did about half a dozen other mothers and one father with their kids. The theater employee apologized and offered us free candy. All good. Who refuses free candy? I'll go into the cliche of stories like this and say that the movie started normally, because well, it did. The intro was the part Katie liked the most, where Woody and Jessie chase the train and Buzz saves Woody at the last minute. Actually, nothing off happened for most of the showing. Once in a while, it would glitch, where the image would freeze for a second and then fast forward to catch back with the sound. While I noticed it, the kids didn't care as long as they got to see their heroes in jumbo size. Nearing the end is when things got strange. It didn't seem off at first, but I would soon find out, as every other family in the theater would. There's a point in the movie where Woody and the toys end up at the dump after Lotso managed to drag Woody into a dumpster, and the garbage truck picks them up. The Little Pizza Planet aliens get taken away by one of the trucks in the dump, and then Woody and his friends are carried onto a conveyor belt. The moment they hit the belt, the screen flickered and the sound jammed on a constant loop with the toys screaming when they fell. And then we got to look at the well-known blue screen of death. with that awful screaming sound going on and on like a broken record. I always found the loopy, jumpy sound that comes with a blue screen of death disturbing. Hell, I always thought a scratchy record or CD teeth chattering eerie. Maybe it's because I used to have a computer that crashed on me every half hour and killed my files. It made me nervous, but when John and the father burst into mocking laughter, I uttered a nervous laugh too. The kids were confused, but for those who had just enough knowledge of computers, it was really funny. I have another friend who worked at this theater, and he quit for another job around the time computers replaced people in the cabins projecting the films. I guess nothing will ever replace a good old human being. When nobody came to check on us, John got up and left to ask someone to turn that thing off or restart it. Katie didn't seem fazed by this, and shrugged it off, waiting patiently. She was always pretty smart and mature, knowing she could watch it at home anyway. A little boy was crying, and the mother had to leave when the sound became ridiculously loud. It wasn't constant, that screaming sound, you see? It lowered to a near whisper and became loud enough to make my head buzz. At some point Katie gave me a worried look as she clasped her hands over her ears. Before I made the final decision to leave, however, the screen went black and an employee returned with John and a flashlight, apologizing and letting us know they would resume the movie shortly. Apparently they had been having equipment problems all morning. Shortly after the projector came back to life, the movie resumed a few minutes prior to the crash, only to crash at that very same spot a second time. Blue screen of death. Again. By then John and I were laughing. Don't get me wrong, we only paid a $5 fee for entrance, but this was getting ridiculous.
Seriously?
John exclaimed. This time no one had to go get any employee. The screen flickered and the movie started where it left off almost immediately, with a loud click coming from the cabin up behind me. It reminded me of a gun as it clicked the safety off, and I couldn't help but look up at the beam of light. Might have been an employee kicking the machine back in gear for all I knew. As long as it worked, I wasn't going to complain, but come this point, another mishap and I was gone. Watching it at home was a whole lot less troublesome. The movie seemed fine come this point, except for the sound, like someone had put a pillow over the speakers to muffle it. Something else was odd, but I didn't notice what it was until Lotso betrayed the toys by not pressing the stop button of the belt, and let them fall in the incinerator. It was their voices. Their voices were different. Not by a whole lot. Maybe the kids didn't notice, but I did, and I know John did too, because we exchanged curious glances. They were similar, but Woody, for example, clearly wasn't voiced by Tom Hanks anymore. It's around that time that I felt something was really wrong. My stomach clenched painfully, and I felt my heart beat the drum roll. There was no reason for it. I had no explanation for the voices being different. Only the differences didn't just end there. If you've seen this movie as many times as I have, you know that while the toys eventually give up and accept their fate by holding hands and waiting for their death, a light comes on and a giant claw hauls them out of the incinerator at the very last second. It keeps you on edge the first time, but once you've seen it you know better. Except I didn't know better anymore. The animation was fluid, but by now it wasn't right. Have you ever watched those old 1930s cartoons, like Mickey Mouse or Betty Boop, where everything always moves and never stops? A few years later they figured out that it was more natural to stop animations because that's how we work. We don't notice it, but we stop between motions. Grab cup of coffee. Stop. Bring it to lips. Stop. Chug it down. Stop. Put it back down. Stop. It's subtle, but it made all the difference in animation when they realized that, and things started looking a whole lot less psychedelic from that moment on. Well, the animation on the big screen just didn't stop moving, like those old vintage cartoons. There was no stopping in between actions and motions, like they sort of danced around everything in some way or another. And let me tell you, if you thought it looked psychedelic with 30s hand-drawn animation, computer animation, if primitive, makes it look twice as disturbing. That clearly was not like the movie I had at home, and it wasn't like the rest of the movie we'd watched to this point either. I noted John was looking at me again, and I shrugged. I didn't have any more of an explanation than he did. I suppose I remained seated out of gross curiosity. As the saying goes, it's like watching a train wreck, and no matter how horrible it is, you just can't look away. There was none of the dramatic music I was used to hearing. In fact, there was no music at all, but only the sounds of fire crackling. Maybe it just wasn't necessary. Imagery was enough. Already I felt a lump in my throat just watching the animation. I couldn't move, nailed to my seat. The claw saving the toys never came down. There was no heavenly light before a last-minute rescue. There was no rescue, however. The toys screamed, and screamed, and screamed, an ear-shattering screech that would ring in my head for days to come, and would wake me in the middle of the night. The toys held hands, which shrank as their plastic melted into a thick flesh-colored goo. I remember Woody's face the most, because this is what the screen mainly focused on as they advanced toward the fiery pit in the middle. Black bubbles popped first in his cheeks, and then his gaping mouth opened wider, forcing a wide smile than it was humanly possible, his lips stretching to wretched lengths until his whole jaw melted off at the hinges, leaving long, thick, liquid streaks of burning plastic behind. I was reminded of the way cheese strings when warm and melted, which forced a completely insane bout of laughter out of me. Cheese and plastic? What the fuck was I even looking at? The banshee-like screeching from Woody escalated and escalated, and with the speakers all around us, it came from everywhere at once.
What the hell is this?
John screamed. My stomach cramped as despair ripped through me, and I thought I would collapse right there. I couldn't move, glued to my seat. Woody's eyes rolled down his cheeks like they weren't painted on, but were real globes of gelatinous substance, which burst like egg yolks, leaving gaping holes in place. Their eyes, all of their eyes, were the only thing that acted as real eyes might, not like plastic or fabric. Later I realized why. Eyes are the mirror of the soul. Eyes, even if they look painted, are always real. Always, and so as they exploded into a liquid state, so did their souls, burning in the fiery pits of hell. It's silly to think that way of a cartoon character, but that's the only explanation I found for the difference. I'm not sure it makes me feel any better to think that way. Actually, it just makes me feel worse. Woody's hat had melted over his head and shaped it unnaturally, and with it the fabric of his clothes caught fire in one burst. It crackled like some demonic laughter, burst into sparks, convulsing back, except he didn't go far because his hands were fused with Slinky and Buzz's hands. The screaming was like the sound of pure hell, like something from a demon. The voices, though wrong, had sounded human until now. I felt a sharp cramp in my hands because I had been holding on to the arms of my seat as though they were my lifeline, and in some way, they were. The action kept me grounded because a part of me feared I'd end up in that pit, and melt off as well, if I didn't keep some of myself in this reality. Most of the footage focused on Woody, but you got a glimpse of the others too. Toys like Buzz, Rex, and Jessie, toys that were made exclusively of plastic, melted quickly in a disturbingly colorful goo. There was no blood, just plastic melting, molding itself off and bursting into flames. It was horrible and graphic. Maybe it was because you get to know these characters so well that you feel them alive despite the fact that they are toys. Or cartoons. You don't need blood and organs spilled. You just need to see their suffering, so deep you feel it too. I even felt my skin start to prick and burn in response. I should have gotten out sooner. Take Katie with me to spare her. It was a mistake on my part not to. I'll regret it for the rest of my life. The screeching turned to wails. I was able to come out of my trance long enough to realize that the sound of crying and screaming did not come from the speakers anymore, but the people around me, many of them being kids. There was nothing but the sound of the crackling fire from the pit around us now. Half of the toys were dead, but the children and adults alike, myself included, were the ones screaming and weeping. Buzz's back burst open with sparks coming out. With a sudden burst of strength, I grabbed Katie in my arms and ran out of the theater. I didn't look back, though I could now smell the burning plastic. It wasn't just stuck in my nose. It clung to my clothes and my skin too. I thought I heard someone vomit and collapse behind me. I'm surprised I didn't. I noted a father with his crying son and daughter had scurried past me. Then again, he might have been smarter than me and left before I did. I noticed that John was not behind me, but that does not matter at this point. The father was yelling at the employee who stood giving tickets. That poor kid didn't seem to get what he was saying. He seemed overwhelmed by the screaming and crying. Soon enough, the small crowd of parents were surrounding him. Things started getting violent, and the kid had to escape. Me, I just stood there with Katie screaming in my arms, half hearing her, still in shock. I felt lost. I didn't know what to do or where to go. Should I go home? Join the mob of angry parents and wailing children? Go to the police? What? My feet moved on their own, and I let my instincts take over. The door. I was leaving. It was better for Katie anyway, to keep her away from this place. I felt empty, and the smell of burnt plastic seemed even stronger as I stepped outside. When a hand gripped my arm, I jumped and yelped. It was the father with his child in his arms, sobbing in his shoulder. It turned out that his name was Jeremy. We exchanged phone numbers after he told me he would see to it to get an explanation for what happened. The rest of the day did not go well. I took 2 baths with Katie, but the horrific death stench wouldn't leave. Eventually, she stopped crying and fell asleep out of pure exhaustion. As for me, even though I was completely off, even though I felt like I could fall asleep too, I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the lifelike eyes of Woody slip down his cheeks and burst, or his wide smile and jaw hanging loose until it crashed on his lap. Just before my husband came home from work, I got a call from Jeremy. I remember slumping on my chair as he spoke, and a new set of hot tears streamed down my cheeks. My head hurt and my eyes burned. I thought they might pop right out too. Jeremy said that the theater's management took the remaining few parents to see to the computer that handled the projection of the movie. Sure enough, they found a virus stored in there, which streamed a homemade version of the movie. But the streaming led to nowhere. Jeremy's job was to handle computers, so he was able to look through it for those who couldn't. He tried tracing back where the streaming had come from, and the virus, but there was no lead to follow. Either the prankster was an employee, and had set up the virus from the computer itself, had covered his tracks very well, or something was very, very wrong with this picture. I preferred a rational explanation to something of outer nature, so I opted to believe it was an employee who'd had access to the computer. Either way, other than the corrupted files the virus had left behind, there was no evidence of the disturbing footage we'd watched. It was gone. That was a little more than a year ago. Anything related to Toy Story has left my house. My husband, he wants to believe us, but I can tell he's skeptical. He says someone had to animate the thing, and people had to act out the voices. That takes a lot of dedication because while the animation was constantly moving, the quality of the image and characters was as good as the original movies. He says that it's one hell of an effort put into a one-time prank. He's right though. I never heard of anything of the sort again. You'd think it would have come out if it had. I checked, and Jeremy did too. There's no records of anything like it anywhere. Jeremy even tried to contact Disney and Pixar, but they never returned his calls or emails, as expected. The theater's closed now. I think someone sued them over what happened, but all the news mentioned was bankruptcy. It's been a week after the incident. I got an email from John. He decided to stay and record the ending of the movie for evidence. He told me that the final scene showed the toys, either melted or still melting, getting engulfed by the flames. It then cut to Lotso looking down with his wide smile and started to laugh, and the screen cut to black, with Lotso's echoing laughter. He said that he wished he would illogically jump into the screen and throw Lotso into the burning pits of fire, and slowly watch him burn to death. To this day, I still get a whiff of burning plastic once in a while when Katie screams at night, suffering from those horrible nightmares.
Portal will close in T-minus 1 hour and 45 minutes.
You heard the man. We got an hour and 45 before the end of the world. Get to the portal. Go, go, go.
Oh no. The portal will be closing soon? Oh no. I need to get my emergency supply kit ready and evacuate. I'll get a new narrator to replace me. Nathan, you're on your own. I'm evacuating to the TrollPasta universe. See you on the other side.
Sure thing, Matthew. I'll see you there. Now, let's continue this movie, where Matthew has left off. I have always loved Pixar movies, except for the ones that felt rushed throughout the 2020s and other stuff like that. Aside from Cars, WALL-E, and Monsters Incorporated, I especially love the Toy Story franchise. Yeah, I know I am like 15 years old now, and I should be watching other films, but I really like the Toy Story franchise. While the Lightyear movie was pretty garbage, no pun intended, I really liked the third film, since it had a nice scene at the dump. Well, enough of that nonsense, let's get into my experience with it, or, more specifically, a scary's alternate ending. I was surfing the web, until I saw a notification from my local AMC, saying that the Mario movie wasn't playing properly, and that Toy Story 3 would be shown instead. Excited, I got my tickets, and while it was supposed to start at 7:30 a.m., it started at 8 a.m. While many left the theater at the point, I was really happy to see it again after so long. The movie played normal at the beginning, with the train sequence, which I noticed that the train had the number 95, akin to Lightning McQueen. However, there were a few minor glitches, and the frame would freeze, then catch up with the audio. Well, it was just technical problems for many reading this. Of course, I won't go into full detail, well, because it would make it boring. But, to be quick, there was my favorite point, where a garbage truck, like one of those waste management trucks, picks the toys up, after Lotso manages to drag Woody into a dumpster. They arrive at the Tri-County landfill, and it began corrupting for a split second, then back to normal. A bulldozer gets the aliens, and another dozer puts Woody and his friends onto a conveyor belt. The moment the toys screamed when they hit the moving belt, the screen suddenly began to flicker on and off, and the sound system jammed on a constant loop of the toys screaming, and voila, the blue screen of death appeared. By now, I felt a little angry, but not that much, since blue screens are common to happen at times, and I encountered it before on my old Windows XP laptop. While many found it funny, I was one of them who didn't think it was funny at all, since it just ruined the movie. One of the fathers, for privacy reasons, I will not say the name of, asked someone in the theater to restart the film. Now, I was getting irritated at the fact that the annoyance I faced popped up during my favorite scene, and ruined it. Suddenly, the sound became loud, so loud in fact that it could have damaged my eardrums at that point in time, and I felt like ripping my hair out of my scalp. The screen soon turned to black, and an employee told me that they were having computer troubles, and that the movie will be up and running again shortly. The movie restarted at the point before the crash. I was about to smile, when, of course, the BSOD popped up once again, making me feeling a little angry in my nerves. Really? A blue screen of death twice? I asked myself in confusion and anger. I heard a father and his son laughing, but I angrily growled, furiously clenching my fist, since I paid a $5 fee to see this dang movie, but AMC ruined it for me. Finally, after I was about to call it quits and go into a huge rage, the screen came back, and I heard a sudden click, like a gun, from the cabin. I had the DVD at home, and knew it was less angering than this rubbish experience. The movie played as it always did, but the sound was muffled slightly, but I still could hear the dialogue just fine. Lotso, the teddy bear, didn't press the stop button on the belt, and betrayed the toys. I noticed that their voices were different, and I just wanted to hammer that bear's head off and burn it. While many do know that a claw hauls them out of the incinerator, I haven't watched this film in a long time, and it was my first time seeing it again. The toys didn't stop moving, akin to something like my favorite, Wallace and Gromit, which is what the theater was gonna show another time. However, I heard the music from McQueen's Crash in Cars 3, which Cars 3 came out in 2017. There was no rescue at all, and I heard the loudest screams ever, that I had to put on my noise-canceling headphones to block out that god-awful noise. The toys melted, and they melted into colorful goo, making me almost vomit. I was very scared yet angry at this point. The screeching, oh, that awful noise made me yell, "What on earth?" I angrily shouted, as I felt sad for the toys, but my anger was finally built up enough, that when everyone left, I did too, but I said one last thing to the employee on my way out. "Thanks a lot for ruining my day, AMC." Most parents were yelling with their crying kids, and I was one of them. Without the crying kid, I started yelling repeatedly about how AMC ruined my day, and how they need to get a better security system in place for crying out loud. After I yelled what I needed to, I angrily went through the exit door, and I got into my Ford F-150 truck, and drove home in the rain. When I got home, I parked my car, closed the garage door, and angrily walked through the front door with my feet stomping on the stairs of the garage, and slammed the door shut in fury, hoping to not see trash like that again. Many on Discord noted on how angry I was, and asked if everything was alright. I angrily said yes, and I eventually calmed down, telling them about what happened. Later that night, I decided to play with my fidget puppet, which is just a popper toy, and after a while, I went onto my laptop and emailed Pixar about the ending, even providing my experience with it. And after that, I decided to play some Roblox to calm my nerves. The next morning, I was having breakfast, watching the 1972 Lorax, until I noticed an email from Pixar. Here's what it said. To Mr. David, from Pixar Walt Disney Animation. Subject, AMC Theater Toy Story 3 Theater Incident. Hello Mr. David. We at Pixar and Walt Disney would never make a disturbing version of our third Toy Story film to date. Well, we do feel like an explanation is in order. It's not our fault, but, instead, was a hacker, who installed a USB, see photo below email, to stream a homemade ending. So that's why it looked different. Sorry if it scared you. Be sure to watch our new Cars show Cars on the Road, available on Disney+. Good day, Pixar. While I was happy to get it out, I was surprised to hear about a new Cars show, since the film was made in 2006. Anyways, I will always love Disney, and will always love their Toy Story films. But one question is in my head. Which sicko at the theater was responsible for the hack?
The story is about to begin, but first, I would like to tell you about the 2004 show called Peep and the Big Wide World if you are living under a rock. The show is about a yellow chicken named Peep, a blue duck named Quack, and a red robin named Chirp who explore the big wide world. But however, one episode is encountered by me, so without further ado, my story of the lost episode of Peep and the Big Wide World. I was making a peanut butter sandwich and went to the table to eat it. Afterwards the doorbell rang. I rushed to get a yellow package which it has the letter P. I opened it up and it was a Peep and the Big Wide World DVD, and it was on a high budget. The front DVD cover had Peep, Quack, and Chirp in a background of the backyard with text above them reading Peep and the Big Wide World, the big complete series of the Big Wide World, with the logos on the bottom left and right saying, as seen on PBS Kids. The spine DVD cover had the logo on the bottom with a character profile of Peep, and the back DVD cover had all the episodes featured, but one had a strange episode title named The Evil Birds. I was stunned on what peculiar episode name that is. Why would they make an episode about evil birds? I questioned. I was going to find out, so I put a disc in my DVD player. It began with the FBI warning screen, then it showed the usual PBS Kids dash logo, but it was off dash looked like he was bruised and beaten up, and after he thought he said this to me, if you are watching this, Please help me. I am so way too weak to stop them. I got attacked by Peep, Quack, and Chirp, so I tried to fight back, but they keep getting more powerful. Why? 'Cause it is powerful to defeat me. Dash said they made me look like a moron. Nobody is able to help me defeat those evil birds once and for all. Please, at least tell them not to do it. Immediately. Save yourselves from them, would you? It then showed the Playhouse Disney original logo, but it was just like in the Evil Einsteins. After the weird logo, it shows some previews of other PBS Kids shows like Sid the Science Kid, Martha Speaks, Word Girl, Super Y, Teletubbies, Sesame Street, and Thomas and Friends. While the previews played, I could faintly hear demonic laughter coming from my DVD player. It then took me to the menu. The menu consists of Peep, Chirp, and Quack going for a walk, with the menu options underneath them. They were Play All, Episode Selection, Extras, Visit PBS Kids, and Settings. I pressed Play All so I can watch the episodes. All of the episodes played in complete order from 2004 to 2011 were Spring Thing Spring Ethania Duck's Tail Quack's Tracks Quack and the Very Big Rock Shadow Play Current Events Quack Loses His Hat Night Light Sounds Like The Windy Day Peep Feed Newton's Big Adventure Peep Crosses the Road Stormy Weather Peep and Rabbitland Quack Stock Stick Peeps Can Under Duck All Fall Down The Perils of Peep and Chirp Hoop Tricks Save It for Later The Red Bell Moon Chirp Builds a Nest Duck Duck The Real Decoy Peeps Lost Leaf Birds of a Feather The Incredible Shrieking Duck Go West Young Peep A Delicate Balance The Fish Museum Peeps Night Out There's No Place Like Home Flipping Newton Chirp's Flight Program Mirror in the Dump Bridge The Gap Meeting Half Way Peep Plants a See the Root Problem Hide and Go Peep of a different color that's a cat faster than a duck Quack hatches an egg The whatchamacallit Wandering Beaver Peeps New Friend The Trip to Green Island Give Me a Call Finders Keepers Quack Quiets the Universe Peeps Moon Mission The Many Moons of Quack The Duck The Mystery of the Thing That Went and Came Back Peeps Color Quest Reflection Affection Peep Deep in the Big Muddy Chirp Sorts It Out Sort of Here Dry Duck Snow Does a Flower Shower I mean on the Creepypasta Who Stole the Big Wide World MUD spells trouble finding time smaller than a peep Quack Quack One duck too many count them out Peep Prince Stick with me Tree Feller a daring duck The trouble with bubbles The sounds of silence The tooth The whole tooth and nothing but the tooth The winter of Quack's discontent nosing around the last straw It's straight up called the evil birds The disappearing drink door tore in a bind starlight Star bright big bird I mean the story Chirp flies the coop I spy a spider Robin in the bat cave Marble mover fair shares the feats of Peep Quack goes nuts The lurmies are coming Quack's square deal You know what I will leave you alone in Inconvenient tooth bringing spring Quack's pond party You can count on bunnies falling feathers Trading places House of sand and frog magic duck dancing Chirp chirp tweet tweet chirp Two's a crowd The road not taken soap opera D the duck quackin' The amazing sandy magic duck ball Things that go peep in the night mud muddle After all the episodes played It took place where the first frame of the intro was Except the sky was red and text was in the text from the credits reading
Warning. We have to stop our fun in the big wide world folks, but this DVD contains an episode that makes PBS Kids refuse to air. It will have bad words, blood, and scary references to horror movies. Not only that, it goes by an animator at 9 Story Media Group, WGBH and Discovery Kids who have been fired. He named Vivian Goodwell. Watch at your own risk if you have to.
Help, this episode can't get any worse, I muttered. The warning then faded out, as the theme song began, but nobody noticed the blood-red sky not even Chirp, Quack, and Peep, and there were a lot of changes made. Peep's egg led a trail of blood, and when it hit the stone, it got covered in blood. The scene of where Chirp jumping onto the egg, had a demonic scream added. The lake was red. When the egg hit Quack on the head, blood splattered from it. As Chirp jumped onto Quack's head, a screech was added. The egg cracking, had blood coming out of it. The circle opening of where Peep, Chirp, and Quack being thrown off screen had blood splattering all over the screen. And when it got to the logo it seemed off. It was tinted red instead of the usual colors, and the text with Joan Cusack was in the chiller font. After the intro it fades to the title card. A dark figure was behind Peep, Chirp, and Quack who had shocked expressions, with text above them reading the evil birds. Instead of the narrator saying the title, a demon said it instead. The episode then began with Peep, Quack, and Chirp looking at the blood-red sky.
It was a confusing day, because Peep, Quack, and Chirp noticed that the sky was red. Let's see what happened.
The narrator began, period.
Hey Quack, did somebody made the sky red?
Peep said.
I don't know.
Quack said.
Then, who did it?
Chirp said.
I think it was just some random villain.
Quack thought. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of Peep while Quack and Chirp are looking away from the dark figure.
Random villain, you mean this guy?
Peep said looking at the figure. Quack and Chirp then turned around to see the dark figure and Quack screamed in fear.
Who are you?
Chirp asked.
I am the big white demon, and you three are my next vessels.
The figure spoke, in the voice of Emperor Penguia from Cyberchase.
What are you going to do to us?
Quack whimpered in fear. The big white demon didn't respond. Instead he grabbed Peep, Chirp and Quack by the necks. Peep, Quack and Chirp screamed as they were being choked, however blood began to get coughed out. The narrator gasped as she saw that.
Guys, are you okay?
The narrator asked in shock. However, while Peep, Quack and Chirp were being chopped, their looks changed. Peep now had his fur dark red, and his hair is darkest red. Quack now had his fur dark blue, and his hat is ripped. Chirp now had her fur bright red. She had sharp teeth, her beak is maroon and her eyes looked similar to sonic eggs. The big white demon then let go of their necks and disappeared.
Guys, wake up.
The narrator shouted. Peep, Quack and Chirp got up but didn't say anything.
Guys. Is that you?
The narrator stuttered. Why, of course it's us, you coward, Peep said to the narrator in a demonic voice. We are no longer the birds. We are now, the evil birds. Chirp and Quack finished in their demonic voices. I was very shocked at the moment Peep said that it was them, but it did not look like them. No one has ever said a cursed word in a PBS show before, period.
But guys, this isn't you.
The narrator complained. Oh well, I know it's not us, Quack replied, but now we are ready to take you down.
Wait, what?
The narrator gasped. Chirp took out a chainsaw and killed the narrator as she screamed in pain. You thought we were gonna have fun outside, Chirp said. Well, guess what? Not exactly. Nothing can stop us now, Peep said. It then showed Tom the cat, who was minding his own business. Just then the evil birds teleported into the shop.
Hey, get lost.
Tom said in the voice of PJ from Cyberchase.
What do you want?
We are right here to kill you, Chirp orated.
What?
Tom gasped.
You don't tell me what to do, or else.
Too late, Quack inherited. Bye-bye, foolish bitch, Chirp said. I was so shocked. No one has ever swore in a PBS show before. Then the evil birds killed Tom by using a katana. Tom screamed in agony as he was being killed. It then cut to Nelly the dog minding his own business. Just then the evil birds teleported into the shop.
Birds?
Nelly questioned in the voice of Fluff the penguin.
Is that you?
Well, of course it's us, doggy, Quack said.
Well, what are you doing here?
Nelly asked. We're here to kill you, Chirp said.
What?
Nelly gasped. And we are no longer the birds. We are now the evil birds, Peep added.
What?
Nelly yelped. The evil birds, Quack replied.
What?
Nelly yelped.
But not any creature has been evil. You can't do this to me. Please. You really can't.
Too late, Quack said. Now for your hell trip. Hell trip, I questioned in shock and confusion. Why would they use the word hell in a PBS show? The evil birds then chainsawed Nelly as he screamed in pain. After doing that, they split up so that Peep could kill the beaver and the Chirp could kill the raccoon. It then showed the fish looking at the blood-red water. Does anyone know why the water looks red? Fish 1 asked in the voice of Matt from Cyberchase. I don't know actually, Fish 2 said in the voice of Bernie the penguin. But how should we put it back to normal? Fish 3 wondered in the voice of Jackie from Cyberchase. Just then Quack appeared, surprising them. Hi fishes, Quack greeted. Quack, Fish 5 asked to Quack in the voice of Pablo from the Backyardigans. What's happened to you, and what have you done to the big wide world? We're just killing it all because we just got possessed, Quack answered. What? Fish 3 gasped. So now you're to kill us, Fish 4 asked in the voice of Inez from Cyberchase. Yep. Quack replied, now here's a great goodbye fishies. Quack then killed the fish by using a katana. They screamed in agony as they were being killed. Come on guys, let's kill the rest of the big wide world. Quack said. Yeah, Peep and Chirp agreed. It then showed a montage of the evil birds killing the rest of the big wide world, including the turtle and more. Afterwards, it showed the fate of the big wide world, but then it got caught on fire. The evil birds teleported to the camera, which scared me so much of my frights. They spoke to the camera while the creepy music box version of the theme song played. Hi suckers, Chirp greeted. We have killed all of the big wide world. Yeah, Peep agreed. And one more thing, Quack said. To anybody who has seen the episode, you will be next. Say goodbye fools. The evil birds then flew off laughing evilly. I was very stunned at what had happened. That wasn't a usual episode. An episode like that would show parents and kids, but that episode didn't show any of that. The funding came up at the background was read in the demonic voice did the funding instead of Quack as usual. Major funding for this program was provided by the National Science Foundation. Evil laughter smiling face with horns. The credits rolled up at the background was red and Peep, Chirp and Quack were still evil. Then it showed the logos but they were off. The WGBH Kids logo came up but George, Arthur, Buster, Ruff Ruffman, Martha and Leona looked like they were beaten up and they said, save yourself. While the Design Squad logo had black eyes with red pupils and grinning teeth and Peep, Chirp and Quack were still evil. The 9-Story Entertainment logo came up but the logo looked like he was beaten up and said,
please, save yourself from the evil birds. They're headed for you next. So, begin running now.
But when I tried to grab the remote, a jump scare came up. It was an edited picture of Quack from the episode Bridge the Gap where he wasn't very happy about what happened to the water, but the difference was he was crying blood. After the jump scare it then got me back to the main menu. I then put the DVD back in its case and threw it away just to not watch Peep and the Big Wide World the same way again. The end.
Portal will close in T-minus 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Portal will close. Go! Go! Go!
No, the portal will close? Oh no, I need to get all of my emergency stuff together and evacuate. See you later, I hope.
Come on, Peter. You're our last hope. The portal will close soon, so finish this movie already.
Fear not. I, Radar Overseer Scotty, have come to the rescue. I'll narrate the remaining stories real quick. Ahem. Monsters, Incorporated was one of Pixar's best works yet. It had a neat concept and charming moments. I was scared of it when I was a kid, but I will always have a soft spot for it. But that's not what I'm talking about. There is something that will be stuck in my head for years now. It was November 2nd, 2020. A year before Monsters, Incorporated's 20th anniversary. I was viewing the Pixar website about their projects from 1995 to 2005. Not long after, I got an email notification from Pixar. I opened up the email and it said, hello, Pixar fan from Australia, we would like to show you an unreleased draft of the beginning of Monsters, Incorporated, as we would rather not release it to the public. The person who made it was the same person who made the deleted draft of Woody's Nightmare from Toy Story 2, only he impersonated a random man. After you watch it, please do not screen it anywhere. Watch at your own risk. I was confused, but surprised. I just got another email from Pixar. The first time I got one from them was when I was given a deleted draft of Woody's Nightmare from Toy Story 2 inches. I downloaded the file, and it was finally saved onto my laptop. Its file name was Monsters Incorporated.mov. An alternate draft of the beginning of Monsters, Incorporated. I thought to myself. I opened up the file. But before it played, it had a warning. This following deleted, later changed, footage of Monsters, Incorporated you are about to see is not for the weak-hearted. Viewer discretion is advised. I got anxious after reading it. Here goes the freakiness again. The footage started with a shot of a shelf in a child's bedroom with toys placed on. We heard the usual dialogue, as heard in the final film. "Good night, sweetheart," said a woman's voice. "Good night, Mom," said a boy's voice. "Sleep tight, kiddo," said a man's voice. The light then switched off. It then panned down to the simulation boy sleeping in bed. Things were normal, but when the door creaked open, there was a silent growl coming from the simulation boy's closet. The boy looked around his room to see where the growling was coming from, and he saw a tentacle leaning on the door. However, something wasn't right. The tentacled arm was holding a hatchet. The boy gasped and shut his eyes, bracing for a scare. But when he looked again, the tentacle was only his red jumper sleeve. The boy then went back to sleep. Then a shadow flew over him. As that happened, the room then glowed dark red. What the hell is going on? I said to myself. This was why this was changed. When it panned under the bed, red glowing eyes opened, but there was blood pouring out of them. It then cut to a shot of the simulation boy sleeping. At that moment, Thaddeus File, one of the monsters in the movie, emerged from behind. And, oh god, he looked berserk. He was all blood-stained, he was holding cleavers in both hands, and he was grinning with bloodstains on his teeth. The boy then turned around to see File, and he let out a loud, piercing and blood-curdling scream. The scream was so loud I covered my ears. The scream lasted for 5 seconds, until he stopped. As I went to play the video file again, I noticed blood on my palms. Shit, I croaked. The boy's scream made my ears bleed, even if I still covered them. File then tried to attack the boy with a cleaver, but the boy jumped out of bed, and was a human, rather than a robot. "I'm gonna get ya, little boy," yelled File. The simulation boy then opened up the door to get his parents. "Mom, Dad, there's a monster in my room." The boy then ran out of his room to wake up his parents. He pounded on his parents' bedroom door to alert them. The boy mother opened the door with the father. "What is it, sweetheart?" she said. "A monster is in the house," the boy said. "A monster?" the father asked. "Son, there is no such thing as suddenly." Lyle jumped out of the hallway with a chainsaw in his hands. "Let's put on a scary movie in real life," yelled Lyle. "A monster." The father and mother yelled in unison. "Run!" the boy screamed. The family ran around the house to avoid Mr. Vile and his chainsaw. Mr. Vile swung his chainsaw around in an attempt to kill the boy. He destructed many objects around the kitchen and in the living room. The boy ran with his parents to go outside. Suddenly, Vile came crashing out of a window and lunged onto the boy. He screamed in sheer fear as the blue monster pounced straight onto him. The boy wrestled to escape Vile's grip, but he was too strong. Vile started up his chainsaw, pulling a slasher smile directly at the child. "Please, don't hurt me," he pleaded, begging the monster to not kill him. "Leave our son alone, you hideous demon," the mother berated, running towards Vile with her husband. Mr. Vile then slashed his chainsaw in the parents' faces, killing them. "No, Mom, Dad," shrieked the boy. Vile pointed his chainsaw slowly towards the boy, causing him to scream loudly. The boy's scream was very loud. I began to feel a burning sensation in my ears. I covered my ears tightly, but they started bleeding again. Blood started printing onto my ears once I uncovered them. At that moment, it showed the scene, as shown in the final film, the simulator screaming straight in Vile's path, Vile screaming back in before stepping on a wall, causing it to ricochet back at him and make him trip on a skateboard and land on a game of jacks, causing him to scream like a little girl and run around in circles like a lunatic. The simulation lights turned on and the scene played out as normal. The scene ended at the scene where Miss Flint says, "Can anyone tell me Mr. Vile's big mistake?" Once the file ended, I wiped the blood out of my eardrums, rested outside for 5 minutes and drank a glass of water to cure myself. I went to delete the file on my laptop, since Pixar didn't want it to be screened in public. That night, I started to have nightmares. I had a nightmare of Thaddeus File killing me, and another about the simulation boy screaming in my face. Every night I sleep in bed, I get that feeling somebody is watching me from my wardrobe. Hurry, 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 hurry. Toy Story is one of the greatest movie series in the world. I loved it growing up. I loved Pixar movies since I was a kid. However, there's something that I've been devastated from that I think I might feel comfortable telling you. I was browsing on the web, watching YouTube videos, and looking on Google images of Toy Story, etc. Until I got a mail notification on my laptop saying I got an email from Pixar. As I opened the email, it said, "Dear biggest Toy Story fan in Australia, we have found a very dark deleted scene of Toy Story 2. A former Pixar animator was fired for adding this in a film for children and his taste in horror films, so we dropped it out and replaced it with a better one for children. Only watch this at your own risk." The Pixar team. I was very surprised and confused. How did they even know me? And how was there a deleted draft of Toy Story 2? But I accepted the email anyway. The file name was Toy Story 2 Woody's Nightmare Vita Point Mauve. So, it was a deleted version of Woody's Nightmare from Toy Story 2, huh? I used to be scared of that scene when I was little, I thought. I opened the file, and it had a message before the video started. This deleted scene of Toy Story 2 has been changed and will never be seen by the public. This disturbing clip is not for the faint-hearted. Viewer discretion is advised. Moving right on, it showed a shot of Andy's house at dawn. When it cut to Andy's room, Woody was on the shelf sleeping that Andy's mom put him on, after Andy accidentally ripped his arm. Just then, the Davis car rolled in through the window, getting Woody's attention. "Yeehaw! Ride that quote in, cowboy!" Andy hooped, as heard in the film itself. "He's back," Woody asked himself, noticing Andy. He then looked down at the rest of the toys and called out, "Hey, everybody! Andy's back! He's back early from cowboy camp." On the ground were Mr. Potato Head, Rocky, Slinky and Rex playing cards, getting Woody's attention. Next to the door, shouted, "Places everybody! Andy's coming!" All of the toys scattered around the room to find their usual places. Woody heard Andy's footsteps approaching upstairs, so he became motionless. Andy burst into his room, riding a wooden hobby horse, humming the Lone Ranger theme, as usual heard in the movie. He then stepped up to the shelf and spotted Woody on the shelf. "Hey, Woody. Did you miss me?" Andy said his usual dialogue in the film. He then snatched Woody off and swung him around, until he stopped and noticed something. "Oh, I forgot." Andy moaned, noticing the rip on Woody's arm. "You're broken," he said, as he tugged at the arm. Andy then moved Woody away from him, and said his same line from the film, but it shifted to a distorted filter like heard in foreign dubs of the scene. "I don't wanna play with you anymore." I got chills down my spine hearing that distorted filter. Andy then loosened his grip and let go of Woody in slow motion. It showed a worm's eye view shot of Woody falling towards the camera, as the image behind him stretched out. He fell on a pile of cards that the toys were playing earlier. It then went to an empty sea of flying cards, but the background was in a shade of crimson red rather than the blue teal background. Woody then fell through a larger card, but it was ignited in flames. "What am I watching right now?" I said under my breath. Woody then fell through a spotlight and into an empty dustbin. It then cut to a shot of Woody lying in the dustbin full of mismatched toy arms, as seen in the movie. However, the arms were faintly stained in blood. Woody regained movement and noticed he was in the dustbin. He jumped up and out of the dustbin to run. The arms then extended like a tentacle and shot at Woody, grabbed him by the ankle and pulled him into the air. They swung him around the empty dark area, before Andy's distorted echoing voice said off screen, "This is your new home, I hope you have a good time." There. It showed the first-person shot of Woody being flung around, as he can be heard screaming. It cut back to Woody continuing being swung around until the arms flung him down to the bin. It showed another first-person shot of Woody falling into the bin, as a hole opened up. He landed on the rough ground. The floor was tiled in black and white. He put his hat back on and went to look around. "Nice of you to visit," Cowboy voice whispered. Woody darted his eyes around frantically, wondering where that voice came from. It showed a shot of a back view of Woody. Just then, a mismatched arm then popped up out of nowhere and wrapped around Woody's neck to strangle him. I can hear Woody choking watching that horrible scene. More mismatched arms raised up in front of him. "We are the broken toys. Nobody loves playing with any broken toy, which means that we don't function properly. You are one of us now. We always obey the master who throws us away," the toys whispered, revealing to be the mysterious voice. A dustbin then grew from the ground around Woody and more arms sprouted out around him. No, Andy. No. No, Andy. No. Pleaded Woody, as heard in the final film, as he tried to unclasp the arm around his neck. The arm just clasped back onto his neck, and the arms started pulling him down the dustbin, as Woody's chokes could still be heard. Just then, it showed a white circle from a worm's eye view shot and Andy approached in front of it, but he had a zombie-like appearance, as his eyes were bloodshot and his skin was pale. "Hi, Woody," Andy said sadly, echoing through the dustbin, as heard in the film itself. It showed a bird's eye view shot of Woody getting pulled down, as he was almost submerged in the pile of arms. Woody cried, "No, no, Andy." Andy then closed the lid. It showed a black screen after he did that. I was expecting something else to happen. Just then, the silence was interrupted by a scream that belonged to Woody. The screaming continued until it showed an image of Woody lying on the ground motionless. His broken arm was torn off, he was missing his eyes, one of his boots was pulled off, his mouth was agape and he was lying on a bloody puddle. Side note, toys cannot bleed, but the blood obviously came from the arms, since they were bloodstained. There were screams fading in slowly, as the screen zoomed in on his face. But not long after, it showed the scene that came from the final movie, Woody screaming, waking up, which frightened me, and gasping for air, right before the scene he met Wheezy. Then the video ended. After Woody's course, I rushed to the bathroom and vomited straight into the toilet. I posted it to YouTube, so I deleted the file, so no one could have their childhood ruined. I've had a lot of nightmares about that video clip. I've hallucinated Woody's lifeless face staring at me. The animator who made that scrapped animation of Woody's nightmare from Toy Story 2 must be sued. I haven't watched the Toy Story video, nor looked up an image after what I just saw. Later that night, I have some nightmare for garbage mismatched toys killing me as the same of Woody's body in the dustbin. Never ever click suspicious. Links of deleted scenes from the movie.
Peter, you gotta hurry. The portal will close in T-1 hour and 15 minutes.
You heard him. That's an order.
Okay. Fine. You win this time. Toy Story is one of the greatest movie series in the world. I loved it growing up. I loved Pixar movies since I was a kid. However, there's something that I've been devastated from that I think I might feel comfortable telling you. I was browsing on the web, watching YouTube videos, and looking on Google images of Toy Story, etc. Until I got a mail notification on my laptop saying I got an email from Pixar. As I opened the email, it said, "Dear biggest Toy Story fan in Australia, we have found a very old, deleted scene of Toy Story 2 in our files. A former Pixar animator we wish not to mention the name of, was fired for adding this in a film for children and his taste in horror films, so we dropped it out and replaced it with a better one for children. Only watch this at your own risk, the Pixar team." I was very surprised and confused. How did they even know me? And how was there a lost Toy Story 2 file? But I accepted the email anyway. The file name was Woody Nightmare Mauve. So, it was an early test of Woody's nightmare, huh? I thought. I opened the file, and it had a message before the video started. This deleted scene of Toy Story 2 has been changed and will never be seen by the public. This disturbing clip is not for the faint-hearted. Viewer discretion is advised. Moving right on, it showed a shot of Andy's house at dusk. We zoomed into the window, and we go into Andy's room. No one was visible, except for Woody, who is on the shelf that Andy's mom put him on, after Andy accidentally ripped his arm. Woody was facing away from us. He sighed. He left me. He actually left me. He moaned. Woody turned around, with a depressed look on his face. His mouth quivered, his eyes twitched, and he buried his head into his knees and started to sob softly. It touched me deeply to see Woody crying. His sobs didn't sound too fake, they sounded like that his voice actor, Tom Hanks, was in tears. He cried for a good 10 seconds, before his crying got more pained and louder. I can't believe it. I can't believe he didn't take me with him to cowboy camp. He called out. His friends, Buzz Lightyear, Mr. Potato Head, Slinky Dog, and Rex heard Woody sobbing as they came out from under the bed. I realized the reason Woody was crying, Andy didn't take him to cowboy camp. In a fit of rage, Woody pushed the magic 8-ball, as seen in the first film, off the shelf, leaving the floor with a dent. Whoa, the cowboy needs a hold of himself. Han whispered to his friends. Woody jumped off the shelf onto the ground and told the 5 toys that he will find a new home. Guys, short staff meeting, I will be finding a new lovely place for me to enjoy. So, goodbye, everyone. The rest of Andy's toys heard Woody's speech, and they were saddened to hear that Woody was leaving. Woody climbed out of the window and looked at Andy's room for one last time, before sliding off the roof. He got flung up in the air due to the water's rain giving him an extra boost, but he wasn't badly injured. Woody traveled throughout the Tri-County city until he found an old restaurant. He decided to spend life as a homeless toy. Before he found a place to rest, he heard something rustling in the bin, which appeared in the final film. He went to investigate the bin. It rustled again until broken forearms, which also appeared in the final film, emerged out of it and grabbed Woody by the waist. He struggled, trying to get the arms off him, but their grip was too strong. They pulled him into the bin. What Woody saw in the bin after being dropped in there were dead rats, blood and flies flying over their bodies. Woody had a scared expression on his face. He tried to climb out of it. While that happened, it had many jump cuts going back and forth, showing what is happening in the scene right now, static, and what appears to be the beginning of Monsters, Incorporated, where Kyle was trying to scare a simulator child. Before Woody got an inch out, the arms grabbed him and tried to bury him alive. Woody was being strangled, as one of the arms grabbed him by the throat. He screamed as he is being pulled into the bloody puddle, as it had another back and forth moment, showing animals being slaughtered, static, and Woody being pulled into the bin. Only Woody's hand reached out, which is the only part of Woody that is not swallowed whole. Moments later, Woody got thrown out of the bin and landed on the pavement. However, he did not move. He was slightly inactive. He was missing his eyes, his mouth was agape, his stitching was ripped, and part of his face was damaged, leaving a hole. There were screams fading in slowly, as the screen stayed on his face. Zooming in on it. But not long after, it showed the scene that came from the final movie, Woody waking up screaming, and gasping for air, the scene he meets Wheezy. Then the video ended. My stomach was feeling upset, so I rushed to the bathroom, and vomited straight into the toilet. I couldn't bother showing it to YouTube, so I deleted the file, so no one could have their childhood ruined. I've had a lot of nightmares about that video clip. I've hallucinated Woody's lifeless face staring at me. The animator who made that scrapped animation of Woody's nightmare from Toy Story 2 must be sued. I haven't watched the Toy Story video, nor looked up an image after what I just saw. If you get a file that is about a deleted scene, which is made by a writer for his taste in creepy stuff, don't watch it. I told a story about a deleted draft of Woody's nightmare from Toy Story 2, a scene from the movie that scared me when I was a kid. However, there was a much more messed up story I have seen in my life. Every time I mind my own business, it doesn't go away. I was sitting on a hill of sand in my backyard, relaxing. I even decided to go into a pit next to it. When I was walking all over it, my foot somehow felt a cardboard feeling. I examined through the sand to see where the cardboard feeling came from, and I find the box sealed shut. I couldn't grab it all the way out, so I went to get a shovel to dig it out. I cleaned the sand off, and put it in the house. I grabbed scissors and cut the tape open. When I opened up the box, it was revealed to be a Toy Story 2 DVD. Well, in the CD case, for some reason. This DVD is about 2 internship recreations of the Woody's nightmare sequence. The cover consisted of Woody in a dustbin, reaching his hand out, as if he were calling for help, while the mismatched forearms were about to attack him. And surprising thing is, this DVD's release date was September 17th, 2002, 15 days after I was born. I was quite surprised I decided to watch it. However, that painful memory of when I first watched the first deleted draft of Woody's nightmare bothered me. I hesitated either if I should watch the DVD or just get rid of it. But I made up my mind. Horrible idea later on. So, I put the disc in my portable DVD player and moved it to a position to make me get comfortable. It took me to a menu with all the main Toy Story 2 characters. And the Background music was a portion of a soundtrack from the movie where Jesse meets Woody for the first time, and the 2 Nightmare internship recreations on the selection column were 1. Nightmare About Zurg, completed November 2nd, 2001, 2. Andy's Cousin, completed September 3rd, 2002. The dates surprised me. The Nightmare About Zurg was completed on the day Monsters, Incorporated was released in cinemas, and The Nightmare About Andy's Cousin was completed the day after I was born. I pressed play also I can watch all of them without going back to the menu to watch one of the others. Before The Nightmare About Zurg started, there was a warning screen. These internship animations are not for anybody with sensitivity issues. Also, please beware of any disturbing moments here and there. Viewer discretion is advised. Oh, no, here we go again. However, the nightmare sequence started with a scene in the final cut, with Woody watching Andy and his mom drive away to cowboy camp. Once it showed the next day, with Woody sleeping on the shelf, instead of the Davis car driving into the shot through the window, there was a sudden bang on the wall Woody was next to. This woke up Woody. He went to investigate where the banging was coming from. Guys? Woody called the other toys. Do you hear something? On the floor, Mr. Potato Head, Rocky, Slinky and Rex were playing cards, like in the movie. They looked up at Woody and Mr. Potato Head said, "Nope, don't hear anything." "I'm pretty sure I heard something," Woody replied.
"I'm coming for you, Sheriff."
Got a very familiar sinister voice. Woody gasped in shock and called out to the other toys. "Guys, there is someone in the house." The wall banged again, knocking Woody back, leading him to dangle one arm on the shelf with his working arm. "Oh, no," Buzz said, on top of the bed. "This is bad," Mom said, next to the door. Rex screamed, "Everybody run. Hide." Slinky called. The rest of Andy's toys hid under the bed, while some of them hid in the toy box. Woody hesitated to jump off the shelf, because he would get hurt. He couldn't move his broken arm due to the size of the rip. Somebody banged on the wall again, knocking Woody into the pile of cards. Like in the movie, Woody fell into an empty space of flying cards of aces. This time, he was active and was screaming as he fell. Once he fell through a larger card, he plummeted to a familiar location earlier in the film. It was the battle area from the Buzz Lightyear video game. Woody got up, putting his hat back on with his working arm. He looked around to see what this place was, and right behind him, Zurg was elevating up in the center. And holy shit, Zurg looked psychotic. He was all bloodstained, he had cracked teeth, a broken eye.
"Hello, cowboy."
Zurg said. "You're Zurg?" Woody asked in confusion. "The archenemy of Buzz Lightyear."
"That is correct, Sheriff. I am the archenemy of Buzz Lightyear, and it's time to die."
Woody scrambled back to his feet to run, but a familiar face landed in front of him, resulting in Woody to be pushed down to the floor face first. As he looked up, that familiar face was, sweet Jesus, Texas the THX mascot. "Hey there, cowboy." Texas chuckled, smiling sinisterly. Yes, I hired this robot to be my assistant, for this execution," Zurg revealed. "Execution?" Woody exclaimed in horror. "You two are going to destroy me?" Texas then said, "That's right, we are gonna finish your life painless and quick. It's showtime with Sexy Texy." Woody then spotted the bridge of discs from far above. He got back on his feet to run. "Hey, get back here!" Texas yelled. "Get in, Texas," Zurg ordered. As Woody was about to make the final jump to the door, Texas suddenly lunged into him and they flew high up into the air. The two then flew back towards the ground and Texas hovered in front of Zurg, holding Woody in front of the letters already pointed iron blaster. "Go kablooey, Zurgy Pergy," Texas said. "No. Please don't hurt me. What did I do to deserve this?" Zurg then blasted Woody in his boot, causing it to disintegrate. "That was my boot," Woody angrily shouted. Zurg replied,
"Don't care, they're just useless anyway."
Every single light in the battle area turned dark red, to symbolize blood. Zurg then grabbed Woody by the throat to strangle him.
"You want to know what you did to deserve this?"
asked Zurg. "No." Woody spoke through his chokes.
"You are friends with Buzz Lightyear, who is my enemy, and now I think you should have a little water slide down here."
Zurg pointed to the empty hole, where he elevated up to the battle area. The mismatched toy arms popped up out of it, covered in blood. No, no, you can't do this, Woody exclaimed in horror.
It's for the best, cowboy.
Zurg shouted deviously, and he began laughing maniacally. Texas then cut off Woody's broken arm with an axe. There, I fixed you. Woody was shocked, but he started to get angry. You didn't fix me, you just cut my arm off. Zurg then threw Woody away from him. Woody then grabbed the edge of the empty hole, while hanging one-armed. Zurg and Texas walked up to their almost eliminated victim. Are you going to enjoy your fall, Sheriff? Texas asked sinisterly. Woody angrily retorted, no, you two are killing machines. Texas, can you do the honors? Zurg asked. Okay. Texas replied. What are you going to do? Asked Woody. This. Texas exclaimed as he held up a handsaw. Let's see if you can hang on with no arms. Texas and Zurg then left maniacally as the former began slicing Woody's remaining arm. Please. No. Stop. Don't do this. No. 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 Woody cried. Texas finally sawed Woody's remaining arm off, and Woody fell down the empty pit, screaming. It then cut to Woody waking up screaming and breathing. He saw both of his arms were still on him, so he sighed in relief. And the second deleted internship animation started. Oh god, it was so messed up I couldn't sleep for nights. It started with Woody waking up from his inactivity and realizing he is put on a shelf, and noticed his broken arm. After it showed Buzz and Bo Peep exchanging sad glances, it cut to a shot of Andy's house at night time. In this shot, there was a red bike and a yellow bike helmet parked against the house. Woody and the rest of Andy's toys were sleeping in the room. Not long after, he heard somebody crying quietly. Woody woke up, hearing the crying. Woody darted his eyes around the room wondering where it is coming from. The rest of Andy's toys woke up, getting scared. WH, who's he here? Rex nervously stuttered. Woody, do you hear that? Buzz asked. Woody then reassured everybody to remain calm. Don't worry, guys, I will check downstairs to see who is crying. Woody then hung onto the blue shelf and dropped onto the edge of the other shelf. He then peeked through the door to see who was crying. And it was a 13-year-old girl with light brown hair, brown eyes, a pink shirt, a green skirt, red socks and dark red nail polish. The girl was still crying. Woody felt hurt seeing her cry like this. My cousin loves Woody. Why wouldn't he take him to camp? The girl said. Cousin? Woody said in confusion, under his breath. I know boys are alive. I feel it. Woody gasped in shock. He heard what the girl said. In fact, I sense Woody. The girl said, no longer crying. Woody hid behind the door. However, the girl entered Andy's room and picked him up next to the door. She picked him up and stared at him uncomfortably with her bloodshot eyes after crying. I know you're alive, my grandmother told me she saw her toys come to life. So please talk, the girl pleaded. Woody had no other choice but come alive. Yes, it's true, I talk. I kept this secret for years, but you wanted to know, so here. Thank you. The girl said. I'm Alicia, Andy's cousin. You're Andy's cousin? Woody said in surprise. What are you doing in Andy's house? Well, Alicia began. Andy's mom called my mother and asked if I can go to her and Andy's house so she can get some company until Andy gets back. And you cried because he didn't take me to cowboy camp? Woody asked sadly. Yes, I'm easily sensitive. Alicia replied, choking up. Well, I heard you are broken, and I did this with my old broken toys when I was younger. What are you going to do? Woody asked in concern. Alicia grabbed Woody and exited right through the door. On the porch, there was a dustbin, as seen in the final cut. Alicia opened up the lid and held Woody over that. Alicia glumly said, as her voice faded to a demonic effect, I'm sorry, Woody, but things have to be the way they have to be. And her brown eyes suddenly turned dark red. Woody gasped. What? He exclaimed. You can't do this. Not every child throws their broken toys out. Behind him, the mismatched toy arms rose behind him, but they were all blood red and full of dangerous weapons. The arms grabbed Woody and they strangled him. Alicia snapped out of it. This is not how things should be. I love you and Andy. At that moment, Andy appeared behind Alicia. I saw the whole thing, Woody. You are alive. His voice faded demonically like in Various foreign dubs of the nightmare sequence. Woody screamed multiple no-s as he was being pulled into the grave. Andy, Alicia, I love you too, and you too love me. I would never do anything to hurt either of you. Andy and Alicia watched Woody through the dustbin as the sky turned white. Bye, Woody, Andy said sadly, echoing through the dustbin. As Woody was almost getting to the bottom of the dustbin, he started choking on the blood-red stench. At the bottom, Woody was falling into an empty abyss. He realized his body was suddenly ripping apart, both his arms were tearing, and his eyes turned hollow black with red pinpricks. Woody let out a blood-curdling scream as his unknown fate happened. It then cut back to reality, where Woody woke up from his nightmare with the same footage from the movie. The second animation ended, and I was in disbelief. I pulled the disc out of the DVD player, put it back in its case and smashed it. I even buried it into where I found it. I put my hands over my head in complete despair. I have seen what appeared to be the most horrifying version of Woody's nightmare. I didn't sleep for the rest of the week. Every time I sleep, I will see hallucinations of Zurg, Texas, Andy and Alicia staring at me. Even Woody's deformed body. Please do me a favor and don't watch any lost DVD you discover.
Portal will close in T-1 hour. Second chance to evacuate.
Oh no. I need to do this double time. Does anyone remember the movie, Over the Hedge? It was a 2006 film about a family of animals who have to get food to store for winter. But the hedge takes away half of the forest. So, with the help of a raccoon named RJ, they learn how to steal food from the humans. But what they don't know is that RJ is really using them to get the food to pay back in angry. They're named Vincent. Eventually, RJ chooses his family over paying back the bear and decides to save them when the Verminator is about to take them to be killed. Or at least that's the ending we all know. But did you know that there was an alternate ending to this movie? It was so messed up that I can never think of Over the Hedge the same way again. It all started one day when I was in my house playing guitar. Right when I was about to learn a new song, I heard a knock on the door. I went to see who was there, but there was no one there. But I wound up seeing a package on my doorstep. I picked it up and I saw a DVD labeled Over the Hedge, Lost Ending. Over the Hedge has an alternate ending? I thought to myself, amazed at my discovery. I put the DVD into my DVD and I sat back to watch a piece of lost media. I thought I was so lucky that someone managed to mail me a piece of lost media, yet alone from my favorite movie. Oh, how that feeling would go away quickly. A warning popped up, reading, this alternate ending of Over the Hedge was cut from the final product, due to it being too emotional for children and due to the scenes of animal cruelty. If you get scared or emotional easily, turn back now. You have been warned. Animal cruelty? I said, in shock. I doubt it has that. The scene opened with Vern's cage being slammed on all the other cages by the Verminator after the family was trapped by him in Gladys' house. You've just been verminated, said the Verminator with a laugh, before sniffing a very angry Gladys. Phew. You stink. That's because you let them into my house, yelled Gladys. Hey Nancy. Stop your honking, said the Verminator. These little guys will be disposed of quickly and humanely. No. Not humanely, yelled Gladys. As inhumanely as possible. It was a pleasure doing business with you, man, said the Verminator as Gladys walked back into her house. It then cut to Vern and the rest of the family watching RJ bringing the wagon load of food up to Vincent. Instead of the usual score that played in this scene, a single piano started playing as, one by one, the cages containing the family were rolled into the van. What's he gonna do to us, Mama? Asked Quillo. I don't know, baby, said Penny in a realistic sad tone. Then, it showed the two possums, Ozzy and Heather, in a cage. But Heather was crying realistic tears while she said her line. I don't want to die, Dad, said Heather. Not for real. There, sweetheart, said Ozzy. We'll be okay. It then showed Hammy in his cage, looking visibly scared, before Stella held his hand to calm him down. I was crying at this point, because of the mood of this scene so far. You were right about him, Vern, said Lou, also in a realistic sad tone. We should listened. Sorry there. No, said Vern. I knew we couldn't trust him and I got us into this. I should known better. It then showed Vern's path, now that the family was in the van and driving to where they were to be euthanized. He saw RJ and Vincent watching the van drive past them before they walked away. A few seconds later, it cut to show the van at the euthanasia place, and the Verminator bringing the family into various sections of the factory to kill them. The methods he used were enough to scar me for life. Amy was gassed in a chamber. Heather and Ozzy were drowned in a pool of boiling water. Stella had her head cut off. Lou, Penny, Bucky, Spike, and Willow were electrocuted and whacked with a club. As for Vern, he was crushed to death by a rolling pin and was boiled alive. Vern screamed realistically as he was being boiled, as if his actor, Gary Shandling, was being hurt badly. Then, it slowly faded to black, before a message appeared on the screen: if only RJ hadn't betrayed his family, maybe they would still be alive. Then, it faded to black, ending the scene. I was in shock at that scene. Who would make that scene? Why was it made? What was the meaning behind it? I ended up smashing the DVD into bits after taking a couple screenshots. Then, I emailed DreamWorks and Michael Fry, the creator of Over the Hedge, about it. Apparently, there was an animator by the name of Roddy Fatone, who used to work at DreamWorks, and he was responsible for this scene. During the test screenings, he included the ending into the showings and caused millions of kids to be traumatized by it. So, DreamWorks fired him and he wound up getting sued by all the parents at the test showings, and the ending was altered to be the one we know today. Roddy Fatone is the newest animator in the Troublesome Animator Club. So, if you find one of his creations or an alternate version of this scene, destroy it immediately. Most importantly, cherish your family. You never know what you have until they are gone.
If you thought that the alternate ending of Over the Hedge one that Roddy Fatone made was bad enough, then allow me to explain this creepypasta of the lost sequel of this movie. So one day, I was walking around some Walmart and I eyed upon one beautiful sight. It was Over the Hedge 2, a sequel to my absolute favorite movie. I grabbed the only copy before anyone else could. The case was red, and there was a tear in both of Vern's eyes, which I didn't notice until I got home. I zipped to the cashier and put it on the conveyor belt as fast as I could. The store was about to close, and it came up as $0. I didn't read enough Creepypastas to avoid that little trick, so I got it. When I got home, I scurried to the DVD player, and looked at the case. I noticed the red cut in both of Vern's eyes as he was smiling and giving 2 thumbs up. The fact that Heather was missing from the cover, and that RJ's eyes were angered, I was guessing that someone accidentally torn the cover, and that DreamWorks couldn't put Heather in for whatever reason, but I was still suspicious of RJ's eyes. When I popped in the disc, there were no commercials, but instead a black screen with the Gigas theme playing for 2 minutes, and then I went to the title screen, which nearly gave me a heart attack. It was the same title screen, but all the bags were torn open, the glass was cracked, all of the price tags were $6.66, the bee was laying down dead with a butcher knife in its belly. The Shrek 3 trailer bag had Slenderman on it. The music was remixed in G major, the Hammy's Boomerang Adventures bag had no Hammy on it, and no text either, and when the truck drove by, you could hear the truck's noise. Then a screeching, a girl screaming, and then a crash. I chose to start the movie. Then there was the old DreamWorks opening, even though I saw no DreamWorks logo on the case, but I paused the movie, looked at the case, and saw a normal back, but due to the blood stain making the words, "Help me," I was too weak to stop it. Please don't pop in the disc. I only saw the cast is back in Ono. I expected this to be a sick joke, and someone hacked the title screen. I was wrong. As I heard the clicking of the coins and the buttons, I saw the vending machine with Heather's head in the first slot. The price tag said, "You're dead, little girl," which I hoped referred to Heather, because I wasn't a girl, and I is nowhere near little, and it got stuck before falling, and RJ yelled, "No." That fresh me. It was just as he banged the machine, he continued sitting, right there. And everything after that was normal. Until he saw Vincent's cave. RJ said, "Vincent, no, bad idea. Bad idea." As normal, but then I heard in a demonic voice, "I control over you, you cannot make your own choice." RJ, crying, went up near Vincent's cave. That part when he hit the "Do not feed the bear" sign, he looked up, and I just saw some red legs, and I heard RJ screaming, and some biting, and some evil laughter. Me, scared out of my skull, I reversed to see what killed RJ, and it was a red demon with a key. I expected it to be RJ's captor. Next was the bark scene, which was normal, but when Lou gave Bucky, Spike, and Quillo the bark, they rejected it as usual, but said nothing. When Vern brought the sticks to the log, he grabbed some bark, but it wasn't bark, it was instead a hand, still moving. Every time Vern took a bite, the hand stretched its fingers out. After a while, the scenes got more and more distorted. Eventually, Vern went over the hedge, and RJ was standing in front of Vern, which was strange because RJ got killed. RJ grabbed Vern by the neck, and tied him to a rocket, and blasted him off into the sky. It didn't show what happened afterwards though. RJ entered the hedge, and everyone was excited, and group hugged him. But he said goodbye, weaklings, and took out a chainsaw, and killed all the animals. Besides Bucky, Spike and Quillo, who were too short for his chainsaw. Eventually, the screen was blood red, and RJ appeared saying, "Whoever was foolish enough to watch this movie will go with the other fool that watched this." I got so scared that I threw the disc out the window, and buried it so it would never be seen again. I also broke the case, and put my Over the Hedge items in a box for 3 weeks, because I was too scared of Over the Hedge because of that movie. Today, I watched Over the Hedge, remembering that moment, which is why I'm posting this. Can Noel take over? I need a break.
If you've never seen Monsters Incorporated, let me explain. Monsters Incorporated, also known as Monsters Incorporated, is a 2001 American computer-animated monster comedy film produced by Pixar Animation Studios for Walt Disney Pictures. Featuring the voices of John Goodman, Billy Crystal, Steve Buscemi, James Coburn, Mary Gibbs and Jennifer Tilly. The film was directed by Pete Docter in his feature directorial debut, from a screenplay by Andrew Stanton and Daniel Scherzen. The film centers on two monsters, the Harry James P. Sully Sullivan and his one-eyed partner and best friend Mike Wazowski, who are employed at the titular energy-producing factory Monsters Incorporated, which generates power by scaring human children. However, the monster world believes that the children are toxic, and when a little human girl sneaks into the factory, she must be returned home before it is too late. Well, I liked the film when I was little, and I still do. But this is not what I'm talking about. There has been something stuck in my head for years now. It all started on a warm Thanksgiving day. I was watching Monsters Incorporated videos on YouTube while eating popcorn. Just then, I received an email from Pixar. I got surprised. I heard Ryan Warden got an email from Pixar about a deleted version of the opening of Monsters Incorporated, including another email about a deleted draft of Woody's Nightmare from Toy Story 2. I decided to open up the email without risking. As I opened the email, here's what it read. "Hello, Pixar fan from America. We would like to send you an unreleased Lost Internship Recreation DVD of a scene from our 2001 film, Monsters Incorporated, which was a scene where Waternus chased Sully while shouting at him to give him boo. Since the scene was too violent to show to children, we decided to change the scene to make it less disturbing. The DVD will arrive to your house at 10 a.m. Kind regards, the Pixar team and Pixar Animation Studios." I was surprised. I didn't know that there was a Lost Internship Recreation DVD of the scene where Waternus chases Sully. At 10 a.m., the DVD arrived. I walked to the mailbox to see what there was. It was the DVD Pixar did send me. It was a Monsters Incorporated DVD. Well, in the CD case, for some reason. This DVD is about the Lost Internship Recreation of the Waternus chase scene. The cover consisted of Waternus in the Monsters Incorporated hallway, looking mad, with one of his arms in the air. And surprising thing is, this DVD's release date was August 2nd, 2001. I was quite surprised. I decided to watch it. Horrible idea later on. I put the disc in my Blu-ray player, and I sat down on a chair to a position to make me get comfortable. It took me to a menu, with all the main Monsters Incorporated characters, and the background music was a portion of a soundtrack from the opening of the movie, and the only options on the menu were 1. Play Lost Internship Recreation, completed August 2nd, 2001, 2. Setup 3. Visit Pixar 4. Subtitle 5. DVD Credits 6. Bonus features. I pressed play on the menu to start watching it. However, before it played, there was a warning. The following Monsters Incorporated scene you are about to watch was completed on August 2, 2001, to promote the horror film Jeepers Creepers, despite not being made by Pixar Animation Studios. The scene that is going to play may be disturbing for children under 3 or 6. It also may have graphic violence and language. Viewer's discretion is advised. Oh boy, I said in disappointment. Here it goes, I guess. The scene then started, with Waterness saying his usual dialogue. Wait. Come back, he has a child. He turns around and growls, then runs after Sully, like in the usual film. Everything in the scene was normal, up, until Sully ran into the hallway. Waterness then appeared behind him in the hallway. However, something didn't look right. Waterness's eyes were now bloody red. Waterness then yelled, heard in the final film. Sullivan. Give me the child. As this was all happening, Blue worriedly pointed to Waterness, while Sully carried her in his arms, also running. Give her to me. Waterness yelled, also heard in the final film itself. Sully then ran into the door room, and then rips out a pipe that was next to the doors. He then puts it between the doorknobs, until Waterness started to bang on the door. Sully decided to use his arms, and twists the pipe, until the door was finally locked forcefully. As Sully runs to the door, Waterness yelled his dialogue in the final film, but his voice became demonic. Open this door. Sully then takes the connected door out of the wall, and placed Boo's door in the connector wall, while Waterness banged on the door again, but this time, many times more and louder. As Sully tried to connect Boo's door, Waterness used one of his arms and reached it through the 2 doors and starts scratching it. Boo then shrieks in shock seeing Waterness's arm through the door. As Sully finally connected the door to the wall, he pressed the button. He then grabs Boo and goes through the door. Don't go in that room. Waterness yelled, in his demonic voice. Sully then looks back at Waterness, and then slams Boo's door shut. Waterness then bangs on the 2 doors a few times, until the doors fell right onto the ground, damaged from Waterness's banging fists. It then cuts to Sully, tucking Boo in her bed. I think we stopped him, Boo. You're safe now. You be a good girl, okay? Sully said. As Sully turns to leave, Waterness opens the door madly and walks in the room, closing Boo's door. This has gone far enough, James. Waterness angrily said, heard in the final film, but sounding demonic. She's home now, just leave her alone. Sully yelled. I can't do that. Waterness demonically replied to him, raising his right hand. She's seen too much. You both have. It doesn't have to be this way. Sully remarked to Waterness. I have no choice. Waterness spoke. Again, still speaking demonically. Times have changed, scaring isn't enough anymore. But kidnapping children? Sully asked angrily. I'll kidnap 1,000 children, before I let this company die. And I'll silence anyone who gets in my way. Waterness yelled, before punching Sully, skidding him onto the floor. No. Sully yelled. Instead of the robot being in the bed, the screen cut to black, with Boo screaming, and the sounds of slicing could be heard. It then cut back to the menu. I was so in shock I got up from my chair. I went to tell my friend Jacob about the DVD. Thankfully, he believed me. I managed to take a few screenshots, before he burned the DVD. I couldn't sleep that night. I had a lot of nightmares of Waterness slicing me the same way he did to Boo, and another of him yelling demonically in my face. I hadn't watched Monsters Incorporated ever again. If you encounter a DVD laying on the ground, don't take it home and don't watch it. I'm a total Monsters Inc. fan much like everyone else. I like the newer show, but I don't mind watching the classic movie and playing the classic game, but I don't think I've ever played glitchy or hacked games before, though I don't think I want to play any after the experience I had. It started on a nice summer afternoon. I was playing Super Mario Maker 2. I liked how you get to make levels in it, until I heard something odd. It was the doorbell. I checked it, and the Amazon driver was in a hurry. The only thing in the mailbox was a CD case for computers and a note. I took it inside. I looked at the note first and realized it was from the Pixar team, whom I hadn't heard from. I know that, because I recognized the typing. This is what they wrote. Pixar fan, we cannot take it anymore. Our employees have to get rid of this thing somehow before it was too late, and we were hoping you'd do it for us. We can't do it, it's after us, and if you don't destroy this cursed CD, it'll come after you too. He's too scary for us. Please fan, destroy this godforsaken disc before it comes after you too. It's too late for us. Destroy the disc, and you'll destroy it, but do it quick otherwise it shall catch you. Don't even play the game, it's what he wants, just destroy it. Please John Lasseter. Well, that was certainly weird. And who was this it? The letter was referring to? Even though Pixar didn't send me anything, I didn't do what they asked me. I didn't think that a simple gaming disc would do anything bad to me. After all, it's just a game, right? Boy, was I wrong about that. Anyway, I looked at the disc and it looks like any ordinary computer CDR disc, except it had the familiar Disney Interactive logo, and it was much like the real thing, along with a THQ logo. When I saw Monsters, Inc. on the writing of the CD, I was actually excited and wanted to play it, since I'm a big Monsters, Inc. fan. I went to my room and turned on my computer and put the disc in and installed the game. When the installation screen popped up, I noticed that it was the first Monsters Inc. PC game. I was like, awesome. Because like I said earlier, I liked the film. The first thing I noticed, when I started the game that was out of place, was when the Disney Interactive logo showed up. There was a split second when I saw it turn into something much different, something that I now consider horrifying, before cutting to black. I remember what the image looked like in that split second before the game cut to black. The logo had darkened, the Disney emblem was rusted and ruined, the Pixar logo was now instead Pixar 666, and the light had turned red, like blood, except it looked hyper-realistic. Ooh, after it cut to black it stayed like that, for about 10 seconds or so. And then another weird thing happened. The Monsters Inc. logo popped up, and I was like, what? Anyway, I selected started, the screen stayed black, for about 10 seconds or more. Then it showed the typical level title thing, except the simplistic shapes were different shades of red and the text showed only Hill, Act 1. The screen faded in and the level title vanished, revealing Sully. Everything seemed innocent enough, but when I went past the danger sign, the music stopped. I saw a black, very creepy figure. It was Mike Wazowski was there on the other side of the screen, this time. He only stared at Sully. Sully looked happy to see Mike, but suddenly then his smile faltered, obviously noticing that Mike was now black. Sully walked slowly toward Mike, and I noticed that I wasn't even moving my keyboard to make him move, so this had to have been a cutscene. Suddenly I began to have very worrying feel of dread. As Sully walked closer to Mike to get his attention, I felt that Sully was in danger and something bad was going to happen. I heard faint roaring growing louder as Sully was but inches away from Mike and stopped and stuck his hand out to touch him. That foreboding feeling in my heart got stronger and I felt the urge to tell Sully to get away from the possessed Mike as the static grew louder. Suddenly in a split second I saw Mike's eye open and they were black with that red glowing dot, just like that title image. Thought there wasn't a smile. When that happened the screen turned black and the static sound was off. Before a message popped up reading, error, malicious coding detected. And the game restarted to title screen, but it was all blurry. I had to select start, and then white text appeared forming a message, saying, hello Sully. Do you want to play with me? At this point I was creeped out. I didn't want to continue with the game, but my curiosity got the better of me when I was taken to a different level with a level title now saying hide and seek. This time I was in the stair floor and it looked like everything was broken and the windows were shattered. Sully looked at me and made frantic gestures to me as if he wanted to get out of the area he was in as fast as possible. I was starting to get freaked out by this. I mean, Sully was actually breaking the fourth wall, trying to tell me to get him out of there. So I pressed down on the arrow key as hard as I could and made him run as fast as he could, and I swore I heard a bunch of banging, and it was playing as I made Sully trek through the desolate stair floor, trying to help him escape from whatever he was trying to run from. Suddenly I heard that creepy laugh again, that awful chuckle laugh right after 10 seconds have passed, as I helped Sully run through the stair floor. And then I started seeing a black figure appear and disappear, again with that black and red eye. The music changed to that suspenseful drowning jingle, as I see Mike, with a bloody smile, just behind Sully, as he's slowly gaining up on him. Mike wasn't running, he was actually hovering. The hovering pose was never seen before, except it was just Mike and he had the black and red eye again, only this time he had the most deranged looking grin on his face. He looked as though he was enjoying the torment he was giving his once friend a scare, as he gained up on him. Suddenly when Sully, another third cutscene, the music stopped and Mike vanishes. Sully lay there for 10 seconds, and got back up. But then Mike appeared right in front of Sully and he looked up in horror. Blood started to come down his blackened eye, as a grin slowly grew from Mike's face, as he looked down at the horrified monster. I could do nothing but watch. It cut to another third cutscene of Sully, walking on the ground, and just in a split second, in Sully's path, Mike lunged at him right before the screen went black. There was a loud screaming noise that only lasted 5 seconds. The text returned only this time. It said, "You're dead. Want to try again?" And then that god-awful jumpscare came up as well. I was so shocked by what had happened. Did Mike just murder Sully? No, he couldn't have. He and Sully are supposed to be best friends, right? Why did Mike do that to him? I shook the shock off, as I was brought back to the character select. The save file that had Sully was different. He was no longer in the box itself, but in the TV screen itself, which was flickering with that red static. Sully's expression scared me. His eyes were black and bleeding, his blue fur had gone black and he had an expression of anguish on his face. Trying to ignore it, I picked Boo next. The laugh came again and the screen cut to black again and stayed there for another 10 seconds. This time the level said "Get Boo home." I was really freaked out by now. I couldn't really tell if this was a glitch, or a hack, or some kind of sick, twisted joke or anything really. But despite my fear of what happened next, I kept playing. A guide appeared, telling you how to get Boo to her proper door, which I clicked. Skip. The next level looked much different. It had the ground of the apartment, but the sky background looked like a night sky, and it had the dark reddish clouds. But it was the music that creeped me out the most. It sounded like a distorted version of the Wilderness Chase theme. I also noticed that Boo looked afraid just like Sully did, though not as much. More rather, she looked a little unnerved. She broke the fourth wall just like Tails and looked as if she wasn't sure about going on, but I made her move. Anyway, she ran through the straight pathway in this dark level, and as he did the screen started to flicker red static a couple times and then that maddening laugh came again. Then after a few seconds of running I noticed several claw marks on the wooden floor. I felt a growing sense of fear again, thinking something horrible is going to happen to Boo. She looked scared walking down this claw-marked apartment hallway, but I still kept her going. Suddenly, as Boo ran, Mike appeared right in front of her with that black and red eye, and then red static appeared again. When the static vanished, showing nothing but black screen with text saying "Gotcha." I was now scared. Mike found Boo already? What was going on? Anyway, red static came again and then I was back to the level. Boo looked like she was panicking, and Mike was nowhere to be found. And this time that high-pitched VHS static was playing. Suddenly Mike appeared right behind Boo on what appeared to be pixelated black hoverboard. I made Boo turn and then sneeze at Mike, but Mike just vanished in black pixelated smoke. Before I could even land a hit, that terrible laugh went off again. Then Mike appeared behind Boo again. And then I made her sneeze again, and Mike just vanished again laughing. Boo was panicking even more, and even I felt like I was going crazy. Mike was practically playing with us. He was playing a sick, twisted little mind game with me and Boo. Another cutscene played, as Boo fell to her knees and clutched his head sobbing. I felt his agony. Mike, our friend, was actually driving us both crazy. And then in a split second Mike lunged at Boo and the screen went black with another distorted screeching noise that lasted for at least 3 seconds. Another text message appeared. So many souls to kill with, so much time, would you agree? What the hell, just what is going on? I started to think Mike was actually trying to talk to me through the game, but I was too scared to think that I was Brought back to the main menu, and this time the second file box had blue in the TV screen. Her shirt had darkened to a reddish gray. Her hair was dripping with blood and her eyes were black and bleeding too. And he had a look of sadness on her face. I began to think that those are the actual characters trapped in those TV screens on the save files, but I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. Before I was able to close the game, I could hear the cries of Lou and Sully nearby. They were saying stuff like, "Help, and we need to run and run away before he gets you too." I was forced to play as Celia, coming soon. Wait, what's gonna happen next? What about all of the creepypastas that aren't even narrated yet? Why did the creepypasta story just end there? Is the movie over? What's the calculation, Matthew?
Portal will close in T-minus 45 minutes at the absolute most. This might be our last chance to evacuate, so let's take some time to reflect on all of the narrating story moments and memories, and then we'll get back to HQ, get our emergency supplies ready and evacuate this universe.
15 minutes later.
Alright. Our emergency supplies are ready and we're now at the portal entrance. Unfortunately for us, this portal won't be open for long, as it might close in 30 minutes. So, ready now. Everyone on me. Here. We. Go. This is gonna be fun. Bye bye Creepypasta universe. Hello TrollPasta universe.
It's a cool place, and the city gets colder, and bundled up now until you get old enough to leave your man back together. In the satellite picture, the ice is straight, it's getting pretty thin. Once in the rain, so you might as well swim. The world's all high, how about yours? What is your another good boy? Hey now, you're an all-star, get your game on. Go play, you're a rock star, get the show on, get paid, and all that feelings is gold. You shooting stars, break on my wall. You're an all-star, get your game on, go play. You're a rock star, get the show on, get paid, and all this is fun. You're shooting stars, somebody else to be still so cheap for people. You get myself away from this place. It's a yacht, it's myself. Speaking for myself. To all these little dreams. Once you start coming, don't stop coming. So the rules are for power. It's a good for you bring a smile for the hurt this man. So much to see, so it's always good in the dark streets. You never know if you don't go. You're never sure if you don't grow. Hey now, you're an all-star, get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star, get the show on, get paid, and all that. You don't keep going. strong, praise Almighty. All our creation cry, shooting strong, praise Almighty.
Caution. This film has been directed, produced, edited, and created by JJ the Fanatic Awesome YouTuber 2001. You can go home now. The movie's over.